Welcome to the Hop Edition podcast, brought to you in association with the Malt Miller, your go-to choice for premium homebrewing ingredients and equipment. Whether you're a beginner starting out or an experienced brewer, the Malt Miller has got you covered. So for top quality products and customer service, jump over to themaltmiller.co.uk and tell them the Hop Edition sent you. We would also like to thank all our Patreons for their continued support with running and developing the pod. If you would like to become a member and gain access to exclusive perks and benefits, head over to patreon.com/the Hop Edition. Now it's time to get this pod started, so crack open a homebrew and enjoy the episode. Hello everyone and welcome to episode 87 of the Hop Edition podcast. Tonight, we're going to be taking a worldly tour to the wonderful shores of the Czech Republic, and we're going to be chatting with our new best friend and provider of fine headgear, Radim from Budweiser Budvar. Obviously, we're going to be talking all about Budvar and Czech beers generally, and also getting some tips on how we can maybe try and emulate some of those when we're homebrewing as well. So before we get started, just a quick reminder that our wonderful sponsor, the Malt Miller, are your go-to supplier for everything homebrew in the UK. So make sure you check out their website, and when you're there, you can have a look in the dedicated Hop Edition recipe section where you can find the range of beers that have been featured on the podcast, including our own creations and some absolute stunners from previous guests. You'll also find their clone kit for Budvar on there as well from their previous videos that they've done with Radim, so that's well worth checking out.
Outstanding, I'm there. Bye.
And finally, please subscribe to the YouTube channel and the Facebook page so you can stay up to date with all our announcements, as well as interact with the podcast, obviously during live streams like we're doing right now. You can find links for all of the socials and whatnot in the description. We'll do a quick shout out now for some new patrons you might have seen on the intro there. So thank you very much to Lance Blackman, Michael Handley, Richard Ogden, Charlie Ticehurst, Mark Pearson, Sam Jones, David Goddard for joining us as Patreons, and a special mention to David for smashing the entire back catalogue in 45 days.
Hey.
Woo! Now,
that's something.
We're there. So what are we drinking? We're going to have a quick round robin of what everyone's got in the glass to start us off with. Let's go to our guest, Radim, to start, starting with a bit of homebrew before we get into the Budvar. So what have you got in the glass, Radim?
Hello. I'm actually
Hello,
having a wee heavy. I'm actually having a wee heavy that I brewed with plum paste, like a traditional Czech plum paste that is usually used in a baking stuff. So I was doing this just in September, so it's quite high, maybe 8.4, with those lovely notes of the plums and also from crystal malts. So hopefully it's not a gusher anymore.
I'll be honest, that sounds amazing. Can I have one?
Yeah, wee heavy's good. I was drinking one last night actually. Wee heavy, it's good.
I'm not sure I've ever drunk a wee heavy.
Oh,
I had that old jock the other day, Andy. That
yeah,
you're right. It's super caramelly. That
yeah.
Nice though, really nice.
Yeah. It's got, like you say, caramelly. Yeah, definite. But,
okay,
the other
Hang
one's champion. A champion.
See what Radim thinks of his beer first.
Oh, that's a good point. Is it any good, Radim?
Oh, it's brilliant. Oh my god. It actually it got really better over the past a couple of months. It's
awesome.
Even pick up some clarity. But yeah. Ooh. We're here to talk about Budvar,
right? Mate, we could talk about your homebrew for as long as you want. We got plenty of time to cover Budvar.
Go on then, Chris. What are you drinking?
I wish I was drinking what he is. But I'm, as I've said a million times, I'm a bit under the weather at the minute. So I'm sticking with my nipple, which is kind of like a lager, but Tricky won't let me call it a lager. Even though it's been lagered, and it's a Pilsner Vienna base, a little bit of Carapils, and it's got Cashmere and Idaho 7 in it, and it's absolutely wonderful, beautiful, fruity, very easy drinking, 4.5% beer. I love it.
Nice.
I was gonna go on to the Bipper, sorry, but the problem with the Bipper is I think I kind of put too big a dry hop in it. I put 40 grams in it of Spectrum, and it's tasting ever so slightly just a little bit enamel removing at the moment. So I'm going to give that a few weeks just to calm the hell down.
Cool.
Go on,
Andy.
Andy. What you got?
I'm drinking the oldest beer on my kegerator at the minute, and it's just it's just having its first birthday. So
Oh,
it's a Simcoe lager. So what I did was I did a split batch with Nelson that went rapid, and the other one with Simcoe, it ended up sticking about for quite a while. But it wasn't great at the start, but now it's great. It's really, really nice actually. Now that it's calmed down a bit.
Came good in the end.
Came good in the end. So it is getting tanned at the minute. So it's good. Yeah.
Excellent. Owen.
and very good. I'm drinking my Märzen, my German Märzen, which is a minor adaptation of Chris's Märzen recipe, which I'm pleased to say placed second in the Euro, Amber, and Dark category at the UK Nationals. So I've got my medal right here.
Get on.
another one to add to the collection. Yeah, I'm really pleased with it. So I need to send this one out to you guys. I think ahead of another podcast we've got
we
planned.
need to send those out rapid, don't we?
Yes. So I think that's going to be in a couple of weeks, or is it next Saturday?
It's 1 week. Yeah, next Saturday.
Next Saturday, right? That'll be a job for Monday then.
Cool. So I have got a West Coast Pilsner here. This is based around the one of the Malt Miller recipes. I think they called their one Bulletproof, which is originally based off of Ricochet from Siren, and it's got a new blend of New Zealand hops that has been released called Turkey's Pick in it, and a whole load of nobles as well. Quite high bitterness, very fruity and dry. It's nice. It's going down quite well. A little bit dangerous at 5.8% though, so need to calm down on that one a little bit. So anyway, that's what we are drinking. So let's get our guest talking a little bit. So Radim, do you want to just give us a little bit of an intro about yourself in terms of what you do and who you are basically? So
Yeah, so my name is Radim. I work as a global brand ambassador for Budweiser Budvar. Been with the company just over 3 years. What I do, well, everything around beer, pretty much. So I do lots of education, lots of sort of quality-focused stuff, plus work with marketing, with sales, supporting them. Yeah, I always say it's the work that no one else wants to do. So yeah, no, it's been great. Other than that, like I do lots of home brewing. I'm doing my postgraduate at the University of Nottingham in brewing science, and I do lots of judging at the competitions. So yeah, living and breathing the beer world all day, every day.
Pretty much, yeah, full time.
amazing.
Dream job.
I was just thinking exactly the same thing.
Yeah, man, that just sounds banging. It really does. Sounds pretty perfect. So, right.
I just have a quick question.
Sorry,
for Radim. What's a typical week look like for you then, in your role?
So I describe this week, yeah.
Yeah.
So I went to Rimini. There's a food and beer interaction festival.
Italy.
I was there since Sunday till Tuesday, and then I went back to Czech Republic on Thursday. I was doing some sort of invitation for an event in Paris in French. I don't speak French, so it was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
And then in the afternoon I joined. I joined our deputy brewmaster to host the webinar for the Year of the Lager campaign, where we had breweries and homebrewers signing up for that. So we hosted like 1.5 hours webinar for for them, answering the questions, talking about the production of lager. Friday, I had my admin day. I passed my BJCP exam.
Nice.
so yeah, that's pretty. That's my week. Next week, I'm training sales guys from the UK. Then I'm going to for another conference. So yeah, like the week to week or day to day basis, it changes. It really depends what's going on. After that, I'm going to Glasgow to the in drinks, and then I'm brewing with
What? You come to
I'm going
Glasgow?
I
Yeah. Awesome.
and then Thursday afterwards, I'm brewing with Fierce at Aberdeen. So yeah.
Nice.
So that's my sort of 3 weeks of description. So hopefully that sums it all up.
Awesome. So it sounds like a lot of talking about
Yeah, it's
beer,
a lot of
drinking
travel.
beer, traveling.
Traveling.
So really, you don't do very much then.
It takes out you that.
It's an easy job. He just sits on airplanes with his feet up. That's all he does. Right. I'm joking.
That's how it looks like.
yeah. Just do us a quick favor. And I've read the spiel on the website, okay? And I read and I can't remember the time period, so you might be able to correct me. It was some time period where you brewed 74 million pints of Budvar. Was it like 10 months or something where you brewed it? It's on the website, and I'll find it in a minute, but they were talking about it. 74 million pints. It was like a million heck or something you brewed. It was ridiculous. Was that just a standard month?
No. So 74 million pints. That it's not correct, because we produce 1.8 million hectoliters. So for pints, it would be like 2.2.
No. It wasn't per year. I will find it and I will be back. Right?
Please do.
Whilst I'm doing that, just give us a quick roundup, because I love history and my son loves history. And as long as nobody swears for like the next 5 or 6 minutes, I can show this bit to my son, because he will actually sit and listen. So no swearing. You're all under orders. Give us some history of the brewery itself. See if I can get him to Czech Republic. He loves it.
Brilliant. Yeah, so we are from Czech Republic, and we started the brewery in 1895. Pretty much at the time, it wasn't just Czech Republic just yet. It was a part that was called Bohemia, and it was under the rule of Austro-Hungarian Empire. And the town where we're from, it's called Budějovice. And back in the day, there was a population quite 50-50 German-speaking and Czech-speaking. And as it was under Austro-Hungarian Empire, the official language was German. And because like even now, when you look at the map, we are quite close to the borders with Austria. So the town had a name Budweiser. So that's the German name of Budějovice, pretty much. So 1895, you got this division between the Czechs and the German-speaking population. And yeah, Czech people just were not happy about being ruled by German-speaking officials. So they crowdfunded the brewery, and we've been here 129 years now. Yeah, so that's a quick history.
Right. I think me and Oscar need to get on a plane and come over to Czech Republic and just check that out. He'd love it. He loves history in all its forms. So
I'm sure
I would like to invite everyone who's listening to this podcast, like come over to Budějovice or Budweiser and come and experience it yourself. We got some brews that you can only try in the brewery. Well, we'll talk about it later.
Okay. All right.
Nice.
Yeah.
Add that to the European tour itinerary, Chris. That one's going on.
I'll make it work, mate. I'll make it work.
It's done.
Right, somebody else take the lead. I'm trying to find this bit.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I'm sure most people are familiar with the sort of standard Budvar that they will have seen before, but what are there other lager styles that are produced by Budweiser, Budvar, and what might we be trying on the pod later?
Yeah, so you mentioned the original. That's the beer that we've been brewing ever since. That's our flagship lager. We've got our non-alcoholic, which is 0.5%, still classed as a non-alcoholic, which we're going to taste as well. We've got our dark, so that we made in 2004, if I believe correctly. That's basically pays the tribute to all-time lagers before the direct kilning and everything. There's no sourness though, and no smokiness. And then we've got a couple of beers that we have just specifically in Czech Republic. We've got our 10 degrees Plato, which is our 4% lager. So it's just a lower strength version, the everyday beer. We're doing our 33. This is our newest beer that actually has got 33 IBU for the people that like higher bitterness in beers. Where we're actually using Simpson's T50.
Yay.
That's quite interesting story. I'll tell you later on about the collaboration we did with Thornbridge and how.
Okay, somebody start taking notes. Somebody start taking notes.
From that, right?
About.
Yeah, and
hold on, Chris.
then, yeah, we got our reserve.
Handy Budvar
Yeah, yeah, we got our reserve, which we sadly discontinued in the UK, but it's our 16 degrees Plato. It's not a category, but we like to call it the Imperial Lager.
Yeah,
So it's 5% lager that we produce in the brewery and once a year with a fresh hop. So that's pretty much it. Yeah,
I found it. I found it. Hang on a sec. Give me a second. Share screen. Share that screen just there. Right. In 2018, Budvar exports the most beer in its history. You exported close to 1 million hectoliters of beer to 76 countries. Now, I've worked out what 1 million hec is, and it's 75 million pints. So that's 1 million pints to 76 different countries.
I think.
Is my maths wrong?
If honestly, million plus 2 zeros at the end, so that makes it 2 liters divided 568. I don't have a calculator on hand, so pretty much, if you say 76 million pints, that could be correct.
I was impressed because I like numbers, okay, and what we did was when we did the Oktoberfest episode, we were talking about the amount of beer that was produced that went purely to the Oktoberfest site.
It was like 3/4 of production or something.
Yeah,
insane.
I did the maths on that one, and it was some ridiculously huge number. And you know, one of the famous things about Oktoberfest is the following morning the streets are always clean. And I'm like, well, how the hell did they manage that when 3 billion liters of beer has just been drunk by all these pissheads in a field? But yeah, I think that is worth shouting about that. 76 countries, 1 million hec of beer to those countries in 1 year is impressive. Nobody else? No? So you three who normally do this podcast with me, right? None of you get behind me when I get excited, do you?
No, pretty much.
No.
It's hard to like compare. I mean, it sounds like a big number, but
but you need to see it.
Yeah, I would say only thing. So that's for export. Overall, we produce 1.8 million hectoliters. So
I'm gonna do the math.
Yeah, sorry, I work in metrics, no imperial system.
Right.
Yeah, like a lot of Chris to do the conversions, but yeah, I just find interesting, like still producing, like it's a quite big volume of beer, but still producing the traditional way. So still doing decoction mashing, still doing log maturation. So it's quite I find this interesting ever since I started Budvar. It's just
Do they still stick with those processes, basically?
Yes, we do.
So that's 316,901,408 pints of beer.
Decent,
no matter how hard he tries, I don't think even Brett could drink that in a year.
He'd give it a go.
I'm sure he would. That's impressive. I don't care what anyone says. That's impressive. So are the rumors true then? Is there a blue light on top of the fermenter to stop planes from hitting it?
Say it again.
Is there a blue light on the top of the fermenter to stop planes from hitting it? I'm joking. It means it's a big fermenter. It's okay. Well, my humor is lost here.
Once I start drinking the non-alcoholic beer, I'll go back onto alcohol. I'll start.
Okay, man.
I'll start jumping on.
Okay, yeah. I'm just gonna sit here and be quiet for a bit.
Yeah. Speaking of the non-alcoholic beer, shall we get that one in the glass? And do you want to tell us what the process is that Budvar are using for their lower or non-alcohol beer, Radim?
So yeah, so it's one of the like standard processes. So if you want to make non-alcoholic beer, there are three ways. Two of them consider de-alcoholizing the beer. So you would either use reverse osmosis to filter the alcohol away, or you would use vacuum distillation, which is distillation at lower temperature. But we're doing the way that we actually create around 8 degrees Plato wort, and then we ferment it at a very low temperature for a longer time. So then you carefully monitor the fermentation. Once it hits around that 0.5%, then you just filter the yeast away. So that's one way of like getting away that the worty flavor. So you literally you fermenting it at the lagering temperature. So it takes quite some time, but once it gets there, the flavor development takes longer compared to like if you did it at 10 degrees. So yeah, there's.
I have to say, I'm drinking this and I'm not exactly noticing that it's massively different from your other lagers, which
It's
I've
very
drunk a lot of.
flavorful. It's got loads of flavor.
Loads
like
of malt flavour in it.
loads.
Surprisingly, loads malt flavour.
But many of those lagers that would be around that 0.5, they would have that worty flavor, like a very young beer.
Mhm.
And ours doesn't have it. And we did lots of cross tastings with other products out there. So this is quite. I was doing dry January, and I had a couple of cases of this at home.
Yeah, quite right.
Yeah, wasn't as sad month.
A
Genuinely-
sad month.
Genuine question for you guys, right? Is this probably one of the best non-alcoholic beers you've had, or low alcohol?
It's the best non-alcoholic beer I've ever had.
I
I
think
drink this happily.
I've
Yeah,
had,
always-
pretty
always
good.
encourage
Go on.
I always
Radim.
encourage people to actually like read the labels when you're drinking your non-alcoholics, because many of those ones that would use the vacuum distillation or the reverse osmosis filtration, they as the alcohol is the carrier of the flavor. So once you like de-alcoholize the beer, you're taking the alcohol flavor away as well. So that many of those 0.0 beers, that tells you like how it was actually done. When you look at the back label, it always says flavorings.
Mm.
So
Yeah,
add it back, for the
Essence
flavor.
of Guinness.
Essence of gin.
Yeah.
I had to be fair, I had a pretty good low alcohol Weiss beer from one of the big German
Erdinger.
breweries. Yeah, I think so.
Erdinger. Yeah. That's a
Yeah.
good one as well.
Yeah,
That was a good one.
that's one that I've always. Yeah, if it's there, I would normally go for. But if I see that, and I say it's mostly if you're at a gig or something, or basically your driver, then basically or a wedding or something, then that's normally when I'll have a couple of.
But there are other great brands. Like I really got into Magic Gang lately. So
Yep.
their beers are spectacular when it comes to flavor. That's really good ales, low alcohol. That got me through it as well. And even I must say, like I tried a Guinness Zero, and it's actually pretty decent, non-alcoholic
it?
beer as well. The Guinness Zero.
Was that just not a
So-
glass of water? Guinness
No,
Clear.
it's actually they tasted alright. So
Very good. Yeah,
Like,
this beer's just got like a really nice
Malty.
honeyish malt flavor, and
The
also
hops.
like this it's quite fruity. It's got like a
it's
fruity note
the
to it.
is the yeast. So the Budvar yeast can have those like slightly fruity, but also like one thing I found out recently that Sass can be quite like strawberry like. We were brewing fresh hop with Sass, and actually like the fresh hop, that amount of oils that the hops has in it, and that brown transformation, actually like it tastes like strawberry jam. So it could be it's a combination of all. Well, surprisingly, like even for the non-alcoholic, we still do double decoction. And some people would say it's a waste of time, but if you want to like get the boudoir flavor, it's the decoction and the yeast. That's the two main components of the flavor, and it's
You
there.
want
So
the flavour. That's one of the things. I mean,
That
it's
you
one of the
enjoy.
things that alcohol-free beer's been missing for a while, though, hasn't it? Is the flavour,
Yeah,
the
Some of them
actual
mixed
flavour of
blue,
a beer.
and the body. That's
Yes.
got tons of body as well. It's not a thin beer.
No, not at all.
Um,
Not at all. I do like this. It's very, very
Yeah.
nice.
I would struggle in a lineup to recognise that that's a low EBV beer. I think.
Yeah, like if you put the alcoholic beers next to it, you will recognize that. But in general, like I've done events where I did all the like major non-alcoholic beer brands against ours. Not going to talk about the results, but it was very interesting. What you like usually the standard beers that you would find in your like in the fridge in the pub as non-alcoholic options. So it's very interesting to taste it side by side, and then it's hard for me like not to be biased, but like people will tell, oh, this actually tastes like a regular lager.
Yeah.
So I think
that's the killer, isn't it?
Great job.
It's a good job.
It's the greatest compliment that brewer can get for non-alcoholic beer.
Yeah, it tastes like beer. Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
yeah,
it's pretty moreish, and mine's nearly disappeared. So
mine's very close to being gone as well.
I had one yesterday, and it was like, see, after I finished it, I was like, oh, I could go another one of those quite easily. It's just it was salivating for another one. So it's really good.
That honeyed flavour that Owen's just mentioned, it sits there very clean on your palate. Kind of, that's the thing that's making me want to drink more of it.
Yeah.
You know what is that? That's the flavor of melanoidins from the decoction.
Really?
Yeah, it's a massive difference. Like if you try Czech lager versus German lager, German lagers that do step meshing, you would not get that breadiness that's very like prominent to your palate. But if you compare it to Czech lagers that you still use decoction, that's that flavor.
Wow.
It's easy to recognize it in non-alcoholic beers because there's no the alcohol to overwhelm the palate.
Yeah.
But so
that's quality, man.
Yeah. Everyone get in non-alcoholic bar just to get what decoction tastes like.
well, weirdly enough, just to put a little bit of a exclamation point on that, there's a website that, I mean, we're not sponsored by them or affiliated with them in any way, called The Bottle Shop, and they actually do a 20-pack of the alcohol-free, and it's like, I might be a bit wrong on this, but I think it's like 28 quid. It's well worth having a look at, even if you just want them in the fridge for, when somebody comes around to your gaff and they're the designated driver. Drink this; it actually tastes like real beer. Plus,
here's
I think go on,
Chris, you could drink them while you're working.
Yeah, I couldn't. I'd get sacked. So would Tricky, to be fair.
Well, it's good, no alcohol.
Yeah.
Always drink responsibly. I think we should mention that as well.
No, absolutely. When you fall down, stop drinking.
Good for the shakes.
Dear, I don't know. I've never suffered with them in my life. Okay, so I want to move on. I want to get into this one because I'm interested because I love Czech beers. I've loved Czech beers. I love Pilsners. I love lagers. I love Hefes. I love Helles. Kolsch. All of the different ones. Thomas is going to shout at me in a minute. Kolsch. But what is it that makes Budvar different from all the other Czech beers? Why is it that when I drink, and I'm going to do it, I'm going to name the competition, right? Why is it that when I drink Budvar compared to when I drink Urkel, or when I drink Budvar compared to when I drink Star Pramen, why is it that there's such a difference in the flavor, and why is it that Budvar is so instantly recognizable when you have a couple?
Yeah, so it's very complex answer question.
We got time, man.
So I think the most sort of this type of question I come across at the competitions when people will be like, oh yeah, but Budvar is not really like Czech style lager. My answer is like, who the hell are you? But yeah, so
BJCP judge.
Yeah, if you go through BJCP, like it's mainly the level of bitterness and then also the diacetyl.
Mm-hmm.
So for us, we don't like diacetyl. We are against it. So all our beers have no diacetyl in it. In Czech style lager, it's still sort of like a thing that people desire, but like if you ask a regular drinker what is diacetyl, they don't know. and it's just I don't believe it should be there. It's just basically it's a fault. It's judged as a fault, and it should be a fault. And if you don't have the lagering capacity to let the yeast to clean after itself, well, yeah. The second thing is the bitterness. Like Budvar is slightly less bitter on the IBU scale compared to most of the Czech lagers. And again, like this is how our forefathers did that, and this is how we like to drink that. So again, like even our brewmaster has this like inside joke saying we are much closer to German Hellas than to Czech style lager. Yeah. So, but and then there is the third thing, is the process. Like we don't do AGB or high gravity brewing. That's also like one of the well, I'm going to mention that. So we don't do AGB. We still keep the process simple the way as we do. We only use 4 ingredients, double decoction, long maturation. No cutting corners in there. So, and when you put all of this together, you just end up with the product you have in your glass. That is impeccable in my opinion. But again, like I'm being biased. I was born in Budweiser, so
yeah.
To be honest, I do think it is difficult.
It's like a hellish though, isn't it?
But when you drink Budvar, right, the thing that kind of gets me about it more than any of the other beers that I mentioned earlier is it's clean. You drink it and it's clean. And it lets you drink a lot of it because it's so clean. And that for me is what I want from a lager. I want good flavor, decent punch of alcohol, but also I want a cleanliness within the beer that allows me to not get 3 in a good. You know what? I'm sick of that.
But it's the malt. It's all about that. It's the malt character that
For
comes
you.
through because see the bitterness. That lower bitterness allows that sort of the decoction process to really shine through in the malt flavor.
That's
correct.
Gorgeous.
I agree with Andrew. It's very like bitterness can be quite overwhelming and mask the flavor of malt. Like if you have like for example German pils, like you get like slightly grainy flavor, but everything is just that high sulfate water with that like shitloads of isomerized alpha acids. That's all you get. Yeah, so the malt has a role there to play, and I think it shouldn't be masked with any bitterness or any dust.
Yeah, definitely. It's at that right kind of level, I think, as well. Is it what? How many IBUs is the original?
22.
22. Yeah.
Is that the same as the low ABV? The low ABV is 23.
23.
Yeah, but
'Cause it has
22 is perfect for a beer.
High finishing gravity, so we need to have higher IBU.
Just nicely balanced, I think. It is very nicely balanced.
Offset the sweetness.
Are you doing this for?
There you
Oh
go.
my god.
Brett Harmon said 33 is awesome, though. I've not can't say I've
Yes.
tried 33.
Yeah, it's not available in the UK yet. It's a beautiful beer.
Yeah, so any idea when that might be coming to the
There are
shores
no
of
plans
the UK?
for it just yet. Yeah, there are no plans for it just yet. Like we don't do. It's it's not a beer that we are recognized for. So it's more a niche. But as I said, like come to Czech Republic or come to Budweiser, try it yourselves. I tried it from a tank Saturday. No, sorry, Thursday. It was beautiful. It is beautiful beer.
What's wrong with that pour?
Nothing.
Nada.
It's the way you pour it, man. It's just.
Nuts.
I did it Hefe style. I'll be honest, but
What's the obviously like the foam piece of Czech beer is very important, Radim. So when we're drinking it out of the bottle, what is the right way to pour it to try and get that foam?
I always start with a glass. It's very important to have a clean glass, like had no leftover grease or anything like that. I have the glass chilled. Yeah, if you compare it to pub pour, like in Czech Republic, you see those wells with water, chilled water, where you're actually like matching the temperature of the glass with the temperature of the beer. Yeah, so room temperature glass is not great for it. It also kills the foam much faster. So it's something called like a protein shock. If you got a warm glass and you pour the beer, it goes to foam faster, even if the glass is clean. So having that, and then I always do two-step pour. So I always like try to like knock out some of the carbonation first from the glass, so it actually aids the head retention, and then you just top it up, and always having 3 fingers of foam. So yeah,
I started off with 3 fingers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Down to no fingers.
it's very hard to replicate it at home as well, because
Yeah.
like using mixed gases to push it out of the keg, if you have it in a pub, it's not an experience that you can replicate at home and having the same result as you would have in a pub, and it goes to all beers. Yeah, I even started to play with that Guinness widget and pour Budvar through it. It was interesting. It was great
Did it-
texture, but again, if you're measuring the how fast the foam dissipates, it's much more faster compared to pub conditions.
Because I quite hard poured it yesterday, and I actually noticed that there was a real lack of carbonation because I gave it a good foamy head, right?
Mhm.
But then the problem was the carbonation wasn't that sort of, the carbonic bite wasn't there, and it
Mhm.
was a bit kind of flat. So this time today, I've just
It's-
poured it kind of
yeah.
normal, and
That's right.
it's got more bite, which is prefer.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like you're talking about the lager snap. So if you lowering the amount of carbonation, that it tastes not as carbonated. But I tell you a story about like we used to have a importer in Belgium, and he was like always mental about when he poured a beer into the glass, it didn't have the head retention that he was used to, like having straight from a tap. And he went on and on and on and started to compare us to other beer brands from Czech Republic. And one thing there is that we actually don't use any foam positive additions into beer. Yeah, so you got a hexa or tetra hop that you can add into your beer post fermentation, which adds up bitterness, but also like aids the head retention.
Yeah.
So like if you compare us to like major Czech brands, like we don't have that. So our foam like dissipates much faster.
yeah,
But again, that's one of those things that
Star Palm's like that. Yeah.
and then if you and one thing for maybe listeners, like the way to recognize it, so when the foam dissipates and using any of these foam stabilizers, you're having like those little islands of foam flowing into beer. So there's basically the foam stabilizers.
Yeah, that's not
Really?
bueno. That's no good. No good at all, that one. I don't like that stuff. I don't like that. Who wrote the notes here? Who wrote the notes about marketing changes to side pour? Who wrote that bit?
Oh,
was
that's
gonna-
good.
I was going to jump in here because I have posted a link. It's just kind of relevant to the education bit here. So, the golden rules for Budvar, and obviously we're going to be tapping you up for a little bit more detail on the technical brewing sort of stuff shortly, Radim. But there's a really great document there, obviously that people can look at. But do you want to tell us a little bit more about the year of lager and what that is all about, and what you're trying to do with the education side of things on that as well, partly through that document and all the seminars and stuff like you were talking about. You did one this week, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so we, everyone, like you know that there's the ongoing joke about the year of the lager. Is it finally here? When it's going to be here, and it still seems to be like at least last year again was the year of New England IPA, which I got so tired of it, by the way. Let the juices at home. But yeah, so basically, we started sort of talks with McKellar to brew together, and we were talking about how much we love lagers, how much Mikko love lagers, and he came up with the idea, let's go the year of the lager. So first sort of stage was to brew the beer together, call it the year of the lager, but then we decided like why not make a campaign about it? Why not like actually, we have some years of experience of brewing lager. Why don't we share it with others? So we brought up this campaign of Year of the Lager, where we actually bringing the years of knowledge of how to brew Czech style lager, but also like situated into conditions of like small breweries or breweries that then don't have the equipment for decoction, but also home brewers. So we created this document called the Golden Rules. and it's pretty much describes the way of how to brew Czech style lager. It has commercial examples of malts, commercial examples of yeast. It has suggestions of other types of Czech hops than just Saaz. It's for me, it's an ultimate thing that brings all the knowledge together. And on Thursday we actually had like overwhelming responses from like professional brewers and home brewers. Like, it's the Euro Lager final. Let's brew it. Let's everyone jump on it and start brewing lager.
I'm all for that.
A lot of us. I don't know you
Definitely
guys.
all for that.
I've been brewing a lot of lagers, and it feels like it's the year of the lager. Been drinking a lot of lagers, so yeah, it's good.
Yeah, let's bring it on. Bring it on. Get everyone on brewing lagers and drink more lagers and drink more real lagers as well, because one of those parts, like bringing the conversations about what real lager means, because of true lager. Because there are so many brands that claim to be from some place elsewhere, but
It's just that never brand. Yeah, the Brewed Button and Trent, basically.
Yeah,
you're not going to name any names, are you? Because you're a really nice man. But I'll say it. Madry, bullshit. Yeah. You keep that crap.
It's brewed over here now as well, isn't it? So
yeah,
there are many brands to claim to be authentic, and truth to be told, like they will be brewed either in central England or in Wales.
yeah, exactly.
Wouldn't surprise me.
That's
ABM somewhere. Yeah.
I've got sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, it's just basically like open conversations about what it actually means. If you drink authentic lager. As the authenticity, and get people more talk about it, and the more brewers jump on it, the better for everyone who actually is still true to their roots or origins. And it doesn't matter if you a brewery with 100 years of history, or if you brew local somewhere Somerset. It's just all it's better for us. It's better for drinkers. It's better for everyone. It's just
that's what you want.
Get it right.
What's up? Drink more Tenants.
If you're going to do that shit, do it right. I got a quick question for you, and to be fair, it seems quite pertinent. I don't think there is, but I'm going to go with it anyway. So Christian Ibbotson, who's one of our Patreons, top bloke, says, do the Czechs have a Reinheitsgebot equivalent? It strikes me as a country of deep tradition when it comes to beer, and he thought that maybe you would.
We don't have anything similar to Reinheitsgebot. Also, like, bear in mind that Reinheitsgebot was not only for beer but for any food products back in the day. Yeah, there's several editions, but we don't have anything like that in Czech Republic. But if Budvar was based in Germany, we would classify for Reinheitsgebot.
Oh, I bet you would. Yeah, absolutely, no doubt. Yeah. It's one of those things. I've said it a million times. There's nowhere to hide with this. There's nowhere to hide. You're either doing it right or obviously doing it wrong, but do it right. For God's sake, it's not hard to make a decent lager. Well, it is.
Well,
but it's not hard it's not hard to
commercial skill.
But it's not hard to have the basics, to understand what it is that you need to do. Executing what you need to do may be more difficult, but actually understanding what the basics are is pretty straightforward. It's not that complicated. But doing it is harder.
I think like I would separate your question onto several layers. First one is like, if you talk about craft breweries that do less than 50,000 hectoliters per year, did they have originally in their business plan concept of doing lagers? Like many of the breweries start with passion, and then they want to brew lagers, and they don't have the capacity because they've never planned for that. So it's very hard, like, and also I've tried so many great lagers done with infusion, so many great lagers that are not like continental lagers, but if you do it right, if you have time to lager it and you do all the steps great, and you're not rushing out, there are so many great brands that actually do really decent lagers. One of which is Utopian. I do love their lagers. They're Chernay or dark. Yeah, absolute banger. Reese from Don Zocco. Fucking hell, I've never had a bad beer from him. Got a soft spot there. Guys from New Barns, amazing beers from Edinburgh. Really good.
I'll agree with New Barns. They do bangers. I had their Märzen last year. It was superb. No,
And
it's
even
good
there's a brewery called Bohem in London, and it's a Czech guys doing a single decocted Czech lager with London water.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
that's going to be interesting.
He
Yeah,
uses an arrow filter.
so even like the breweries of these sizes, they still show like there are really good lagers out there, you know. So following your question, no, it's not hard to make a good lager.
No, it's just executing it. Yeah. Oh my god, Stiffo's on. Everybody, best behavior. Stiffo's around. Slaphead. Yeah. Yeah. So, go on. Did somebody say something?
I just said Stifler.
Stifler. Oh, excuse. Don't make me cough, man. Right. One thing that we do want to talk to you about, because there are rumors. Okay.
Mhm.
Can you give us a bit of a guide through the type of water profile that you would personally recommend for a lager? Right. We're not asking you to give away any trade secrets. We're simply asking, if you could choose any water profile to brew from, what would it be?
Any water profile, like for like a standardized water
for a
profile
lager. Yeah.
For
So,
lager,
yeah. Essentially, do you use the tap water around where you live or brew?
no, I'm using RO.
Okay.
I'm using. This is quite funny. Like, since you mentioned Stiffo, like the guys from Malt Miller coming over to brew with me, and I was just brewing the recipe that I'm going to brew with them, just to have a taster, to talk about the brewing and sampling while brewing it, the same beer.
Yeah.
And I went the way that we do. I just took RO water. Yeah, no acidification whatsoever.
Wow.
No mineral salt additions whatsoever. Like keeping it pure as hell. Like literally just doing for ingredients with the only slight difference using slight little bit of zinc and protafloc and the other to boil. But I think like it just got so like, if you are brewing with your water composition at home and you want to adjust your water profile, great. But go as low as possible with all the minerals. Yeah. In the golden rules, we even share the water profile in Budvar. Yeah. And then everything is less than 10 parts per million.
So essentially, I don't need to add anything. I just use my RO and go from there.
Yeah,
There we
but
go.
no. Yeah, he did say zinc. And
It's
a bit of
like
protafloc.
That's a yeast
the-
nutrient, right? Is it
no
yeast nutrient?
Yeah, that's
protafloc
more
is for flocculation of proteins.
No,
So
but
it's got
zinc
zinc.
is there.
Yeah.
Zinc's for
Zinc.
yeast health.
Yeah, it's for the yeast for better yeast growth.
What do you use? Zinc chloride, zinc sulfate? What do you use?
It's actually the guys from Worcester Brew Club. They bought lots of zinc and they diluted it to specific amount. They're using like a half milliliter
Was that
syringe.
after BrewCon by any chance? When they...
Yeah, it was.
No. But which salt of zinc? Because chunks of zinc aren't going to dissolve.
It's in.
I totally don't know. If I'm honest, I would have to look this up. What was in it? I literally got the whole like I don't know 15 milliliters, small thing. But I've been using it, and even if I do lager with starters, like I've got to activate it within 12 hours. So
Okay, right. I'm gonna have to do some more research on that because I think I've got zinc chloride at work.
So following on with
carbonate.
the water question, because obviously this is quite a tricky area for some people if they don't have access to particular. So a question I wanted to ask was, if somebody is dealing with tap water, let's say they are using London water or something like that, and they want to brew lagers, they maybe can't, for whatever reason they can't, they don't want to use RO, or they can't use RO, or they don't want to buy water in. What would you say would be the most important thing for them to do to try and be successful with that, or is it just adapting to like your own
honestly,
local
like
water?
you can boil over the hard London water just to get some of the minerals out of dissolved state. But you will just reduce the hardness. Yeah, that would be one way to go. But honestly, try it. It's our flavor. It's about tasting. If you brew with hard water, like the guys from Bohem Brewer in London, they had not been using water softener up until last year, and the brewery's been around 10 years, and those lagers were fantastic. Yeah, so I think like sometimes in the home brewing community, like it gets a little bit way too geeky. It's
Yep.
beer and it's all about flavor. So sometimes people try to mimic things from certain places with certain ingredients, but get in, brew, taste it. I would like water profiles. It's an ongoing joke between professional brewers about home brewers. Yeah, our home brewers always come for brew days with a professional brewer, and the first thing be like, "How about water? Let's play with water." Don't play with water. Like, have a good
Yeah.
hygiene. Focus on a good maturation time. Before that, make sure that the beer doesn't stay yeast after you reach the terminal gravity, and taste, and taste.
That's a good one. Did you
Yeah.
hear that,
Yeah.
Tricky? Don't leave it on the yeast after it's fermented. So, yeah, you can then dump off or take it off sediment. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the most important fact, because you can get so much bad things. We promise that we are going to swear. Yeah, from the east. So
Radim, you can swear as much as you want on this podcast. I normally do.
Autolysis.
Thanks, Harmon.
They're all potty mouths.
That's
Radim.
autolysis is like it's like that kind of rubber condom sort of weird sort of thing.
Burnt latex.
It's more like an umami flavor, really like umami.
Mushrooms.
No, mineral flavor. I would describe it like an umami / mineral flavor. It depends at which stage, how long it actually stayed in there as well.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's basically the yeast exploding. Sorry, Owen.
I want to know how Andy knows what the taste for condom is.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Moving on.
Anyway,
Was that big? It was a big. I'll just describe it.
Oh,
Only teasing you, buddy.
Big cucumber.
Just
oh my god, you've got to drag
looping-
it down, don't you?
Looping back on the water question then to Budvar then. Radim, the Budvar use a local sourced water, or are they kind of using RO or what?
No, we using the water that is sourced from artesian wells underneath the brewery. There's like a massive deposit. Scottish buttered condom. Sorry, I just read. Yeah, I'm going to talk about the water. Yeah,
that's thrown you off a bit there.
Yeah, it had. Yeah, so we're using. Sorry, I think now the shots are kicking in. Yeah, so we're using water from artesian wells that are underneath the brewery. There's like a 300 meters deep down. There are deposits that actually, like some say, dates back into Ice Age. But basically, it's so deep down and so protected from any other like modern pollution from agriculture. So it's like the purest source of brewing water. It's very soft. It doesn't pick up any minerals on the way out. The only thing there is that we sand filter it, and we actually aerate it because it has quite high Fe. What's Fe in iron? Yeah,
Ferrous.
thank you.
Iron.
Yeah. So high iron content. So if you send it under pressure, it actually gets oxidized and like settles
Orange
as
water.
sediment at the bottom. Yeah. So that's the only thing, and it has an original pH of 6.5. So compared to RO around at 7. So that's the only difference there, but very low mineral content. And that golden rules, or when I was doing 2 years ago the stuff for Brewcon guys, we always share the water profile, for the geeks out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good to see that actually, because it's always a bit of a Google activity when you're trying to clone a beer, isn't it? It's kind of or a specific beer style, and you're like, water profile for
It's a funny one because I always get a question about water. I was like, whenever I go, I share it everywhere. It's like it's out there. Just access
We
it.
just don't believe it. That's the thing.
Yeah.
So is that water used just straight as it is for all of your beers? They don't make any
Yeah.
changes for like the dark
It does,
version
yeah.
or anything like that. Just as
No.
is, straight out the well.
We don't use any pH adjustments either. So this water is mixed with malt. I was doing
Okay.
work for university on I was writing a paper on that. So it's basically you mix water with you mash in and the pH is 6.
Yeah.
Okay.
Drama
And then
math
it's-
for you there.
That's interesting. So you mash,
Low.
and the pH is 6. Is that immediately after mashing in, or does it?
Yeah.
Does it
Once
remain at 6?
you mash it, like or mash in at 37 degrees, it's 6 pH, and then obviously like once you start doing decoction, you disassociate some of the hydrogen, so the pH goes lower, then you return it back. So it's throughout the process, like I can share the thing with you because it was quite good work that I was doing for 2 months, with literally like seeing the graph how it goes down, and it gets to 5.4 prior to fermentation.
Okay.
No, because
Yeah,
I love
that's
this. I studied brewing in English, and all the books, all the Bibles will tell you, oh, your mash needs to be between 5.2 to 5.6 for beta amylase, and 5.2 to 5.8 for
Yeah.
alpha amylases, and
Yeah.
and then you get a brewery that's been around quite some time, and we don't do any pH adjustments, and it just works. So go out and try that, because like I tell you one thing, like my home brewing life was brilliant. I was like sucking the books and like getting in, and I get to Budvar, and I was like, oh, we don't do this. Oh, we don't do this. Hotside Iration, one of my favorite topics. Yeah, everyone tells you like, oh, you can do Hotside Iration. Like if you got a year when the malt is actually too pale, how you meshing in. You got 2 inlets in the mesh tun, yeah, from the bottom or from the top. So if your malt is too low in the color, you're literally meshing it in from the top. So you aerate it. First stage. Second one, as you loitering, have you ever been to European brewery before? You see those little like a goosenecks, like hundreds of them or tens of them in a row, and there's like when you loitering, you measuring your clarity with that
Right.
as well. Yeah, so that's the second point of Hotside Iration.
Just to get it darker.
Yeah, just to make it darker. Yeah, it's like back in the day, if you wanted to make the beer like the consistent color, that's all you had, right? Hotside Iration. And then when you're boiling it, we do 90 minutes boil, and actually like oxygen is more hydrophobic than any of the gases used in brewing. So you just get rid of it in the in a long boil.
Yeah. It's a 90-minute boil, yeah.
90-minute boil.
Yeah.
I mean, so basically, so far tonight, you've told me that everything I'm doing when I brew is wrong.
Well,
I didn't say it. I'm not. I didn't say you did it wrong. You just did it your way.
yeah.
Yeah.
Basically,
I
you
just
make
went-
beer.
I quit the podcast. Enjoy it, boys. See you later.
No, I didn't say like no one's doing it wrong or anything. It's just interesting. Like I saw it as a home brewer. Then when I studied brewing, I'm still studying English brewing. So then you get like these points from the books, then the points from all my professors are permanently taking the pace with me being from Budvar. Yeah, it's like lagering. Why would you lager 90 days? Why would you lager 90 days? It's like, because we do, and we've got a great results with that. Why would I lager 2 days? Yeah, so it's just interesting. Like we've got or people have different perspectives of view on how you should do things and stuff like that. And again, this goes back to that advice. Go out and try it. Go out and do a pH at 5.2, 5.6, and 6, and see like what was the results. Yeah, because then there's the second thing. Because then after the fermentation, the finishing gravity of Czech lager or general our lager is much higher. Its finishes around 4.6, 4.7. Yeah. And there's a second point. If you compare the amount of your residue sugars, dextrins, yeah, versus the pH. Yeah. And now I'm just excluding the bitterness for a second. But imagine like you guys had a like whiskey sour cocktail, and you're having your sour and your sweetness.
Yeah.
So imagine increasing your sourness, that's the pH. So pH going lower with the same amount of dextrins. Yeah. So then talk about fullness as well. Yeah. So if you got a higher pH and the amount of sugars, then how full it is compared to if the pH would be around 4.2. If I get too geeky, just stop me at some point.
Keep going. It's good. No, it's good.
Yeah, so it's just interesting. I always say, go out and experiment. Try it yourselves. Everyone has a pH meter. See what's the
Yeah.
difference. What's your yields as well? Yeah. What's your mesh efficiency? All these
So what were
things.
you saying? Was it the final pH of the beer? You were saying between 4.2 and
4.6 to 4.7 usually.
what were you saying? 4.2 had a better feel.
No,
Mouth.
the fuller mouthfeel was at that 4.6, 4.7. So it's something
Yeah,
specific for like Czech lager as the one that's got a higher finishing pH
Mhm.
compared to others. Like if you generally talk about comparing Czech and German lagers, Germans they use their acidity.
Yeah, acidulated malt. Yeah.
Thank you. and they hitting those like pH ranges that many of those German books would mention.
Yeah.
But then compare the fullness of Czech lager versus German lager. So it's something always compare side by side. Play with that. Take your pH meter because everyone can check pH at home now.
You can even add acid to like a Czech. So if you're saying the Czech lagers get the higher, the lower pH or whatever, no, higher pH, then you could add a bit of lactic to it to bring it down to 4.2 and see how that tastes different instead of being at 4.8 and see it. Yeah.
Let's get out and get geeky.
I've tried it. I've tried it with like hoppy beers, basically, where you've got like some sort of hazy beer, and the lower the pH, the more sort of it just pops the hops sort of thing.
Punchy. Yeah.
The bite.
Yeah. It makes it better. But
I always thought that higher pH favoured malty beers and a lower pH favoured hoppy beers. I don't know if that's a rule of thumb anyone else has come across. Or whether it's even true, I don't know.
Yeah, the way I'm looking at this is always a triangle: the pH, final gravity, or amount of residue sugars, and IBUs.
Yeah.
Because then also and also there's the fourth element, the hidden element, and it's called carbonation.
Yeah, because it's bringing that carbonic bite. Yeah,
Adds acidity, literally.
It does. Yeah.
So go on, experiment. Otherwise, we're going to spend another hour just talking about this.
That's good.
Triangle. Yeah.
This is the geeky stuff that we love.
Well, should we move on and talk about decoction? You've already mentioned it a number of times, Radim, but perhaps you could just give everyone a quick overview of what that actually means. What is the process in the Budvar brewery?
So the decoction, that's a historical process of basically breaking down the starches and proteins that are in the malt. So back in the day, before any thermometers existed, this was a sort of way how to get the most out of the grain. These days, basically decoction is using under-modified malts, so very like less than 38 on Kolbach index. And the biggest advantage of decoction is really creating those flavors, the breadiness. It's called Maillard reaction. Maillard reaction creates Maillard products, some of which are melanoidins, the most famous ones. And it's basically a similar thing like when you're baking bread, that crust flavor, or when you're searing your steak, that sear flavor. So it's basically a reaction between free sugars and amino acids. So it creates this really like a beautiful breadiness in the beer. But also there are lots of other things in the decoction, one of which is the head retention, because it breaks down the proteins into large, medium size, and small molecules of protein. So there are lots of benefits to decoction. The massive no benefit, it's the time consumption. So many brewers, many brewing nations have moved to more modified malts, so they have a much better control over using infusion or step meshes for most of the German brewers. And the decoction is sort of like a historical thing. But if you go to Czech Republic and talk to any Czech brewers, like they would swear on their mother's names that the decoction is the way to brew lagers, and yeah, I'm one of them.
Yeah,
Have you-
sure. So just winding it back a little bit.
How you do that at home? now?
You've talked about kind of the benefits of decoction, a little bit of the history of it, but what actually is the process?
So decoction, you're having 3 types of decoction: single, double, triple. The most ones would be double, because usually would start somewhere at the temperature for beta glucanase rest and phytase rest. So phytase, that lowers the pH. Beta glucanase is just breaks down the gums that are really painful in a loiter, and then also later on after fermentation at filtration. And then you bring up the temperature into proteinase rest, so around at 50 degrees region, where you're breaking down the proteins into large proteins, which settle out after the boil. Then the mid-sized proteins, which are usually for the head retention or form positive components, and then you would have the very small ones, which are used as nutrients for the yeast. And then you're having your beta and alpha amylase. Everyone knows these rests. But basically, in order to raise up the temperature, you calculate the portion of the mash that you take away. You take it through the steps. So if you do triple decoction, you would start around 37 degrees Celsius, so centigrade, and then you will calculate how much you have to take away to bring it to 52. Then you take it and basically doing 20 minutes rest at 52, 65, 72, 100, and then return it back. So the whole mash goes up to 50 around that region. I'm not going to be specific. So for the proteolytic rest, and then again, you leave it there for 20 minutes, taking the portion away, bring it up to heat, and bring it back, and brings the whole mash into 65. So saccharification rest. And you do the same thing, bring it all way up, and bring it back, and you bring it up to mash out temperature to denature the enzymes. So yeah, the whole process for us, we do a double decoction only. So we're skipping the first decoction by adding hot water in and raising the temperature to proteolytic rest. Yeah, Pilsner Urkel, they do the free triple decoction. Again, pluses, minuses. Every brewer believes something different. I've tried some lagers tried with single decoction. It still has the beautiful breadiness. So again, for some breweries could be historical fact. For some modern brewers would be sort of a time efficiency thing. Again,
you still go through there's still the 3 different temperatures that you're taking it through, but what you're doing is the first 2 you're doing just through a step mash, and then you do the double decoction after, sort of thing. Yeah.
The first one is not even step mash. You're just basically adding more hot water. So you're not even
okay, yeah.
So you're not heating it up. You're just adding hot water, and it brings it.
So you start at like 37. You add hot water to bring it up to 50-ish.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 50.
Then you start. Then you do your first.
And then you start a decoction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
65.
and then you do another decoction. Will the last decoction then just take it up out of sack
to mash
rest
out
and into mash out?
So to mash out.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting.
Okay.
And typically, kind of what kind of percent of the mash is being
it's a calculation. It's an equation to use for that. Like I know, like it's at 1/3, but it doesn't work. It doesn't work. It doesn't work that way, because especially like if you're doing a high volume, like if you on a homebrew scale, it's easy. You just monitor the temperature. You can always add hot or cold water. But if you like, our brew house is 650 hex, and even the variation of like half degree matters. So you really use your calculation and you measure how much you take away. The equations are online, so you just add your scale in your starting temperature, your desired temperature. I think it's minus the starting temperature, and then divided by 100, something like that, and literally tells you how much you have to pull away.
Yeah,
right, cool.
the laws of thermodynamics.
If you guys, quick question on Rich, if you either you done decoction?
I've never done it. No.
I've never done it. I've still got the
Budvar
all grain kit that I've been meaning to do for quite a while. But yeah, the decoction element has kind of
I
not
think
scared me off, but it's just like I need to put aside a full
Yeah.
day.
Not
to do
easy
that,
when
right?
you got
Yeah.
a young family and all the rest of
Well,
it. Right?
that's it. Yeah, that's it. Really.
Since you sponsored the Malt Miller and the Stifo is on Stifo is in here, I'm actually making the single decoction recipe for that. So hopefully they will come over and release it. And
Okay.
yeah, it's just basically like a bulletproof way that I do my single decocted lagers.
Right. Okay.
Like
Cool.
honestly, I believe in the homebrewing conditions. Like single decoction is enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had
Bring
a
the
people
flavour.
and literally like I'm not even bothered about like bringing it through. I mentioned a 65 or 67, depending the amount of get a kicks to do. Yeah, yes, Harmon.
Says
Yeah,
the man with no
so
kids.
basically just bring it to 65 and then calculate the amount that I need to take away. Like on like 25 liter batch, I do around 7.5 liters of
Right.
decoction, take it away, and I'm not even bothered to stopping at 72 to do it the alpha maize rest. I just bring it to boil and I boil it for like 20 to 25 minutes and then I return it. Yeah, so
So
go
you
on
just
and try
put it
it.
in a separate pot on the hob.
Yeah,
Sounds
it's
fun.
yeah, you want to create a flavor, and it's interesting after 20 minutes if you take the sample of the decoction and you take the sample from the actual mash and you just compare it side by side, it's it's darker. It's darker.
Yeah.
It's got to be doing
but
something, right? It's
Yeah.
got to be doing something.
So taking the broom back into the kitchen, though. Eh?
Yeah.
The missus.
Yeah,
Yeah.
listen. Like if you having like induction hob and having a spare, 5 liter, 6 liter, 7 liter pot, just do that. Or
Yeah.
To be
It
fair, I could
works.
do that
It
just
works.
on
You could,
the
yeah.
hob that I use for the kettle
The
normally.
boil.
So yeah, it's more
I hope
feasible than I
can
think.
see it in your
is,
eyes
really.
now.
Yeah, it's like
That's
the
that,
cogs are
that's
turning. Like, they
It's
can
like,
do this actually.
This would make a good video.
I
Definitely.
really want to
Yeah.
try my hand at making a dark Czech lager.
Yeah.
How much more difficult is it technically to make a dark Czech lager than the regular?
It's
Czech
funny thing.
lager?
I'm going to tell you the same thing that I got from the books that before my Czech venture, and they would tell you that dark lagers should be like the decoction for dark lagers should be shorter than for pale lagers, shorter or longer, something like that. In Budvar, the mesh schedule is same for every beer. If it's an non-alcoholic one, if it's the original, or if it's the dark one, it's the same mesh schedule. It's just that the temperatures vary by a couple of degrees, depending again like what you want, what your composition of sugar should be like. But same way. Like boil it, play with that. For a dark lager, we're using Pilsner malt as a base. Then we got a dark Munich. We got it's a crystal malt. It's not caramel malt, but a crystal malt in a slight percentage. And then we using roasted barley or chocolate malt. I would lie now. I've got everything somewhere, but
That's
I'm going to share the
almost,
recipe.
is that pretty much just for the color? Is it?
It's for the color and flavor as well, and flavor.
There's a
Also,
bit of
like
a
everything,
flavour in.
everything is added at the beginning. So you're not using any of the darker malts at the end of the mesh or anything like that. Everything is at the beginning. Yeah.
I see. Would you care to share which crystal malt it is, or is that are you sworn to secrecy, Radim?
It's a Czech produce. It's Czech produce. Like when I mentioned the Simpsons T50 at the beginning, that's more towards the 33 that we use now. But for the dark lager, it's a simple crystal malt from Czech Republic, but it's less than a 5%. It's just there just to give that slight fruity character. I always get fakes in our dark lager for some reason. I don't know why. I like that dark fruit notes to it.
Have you considered a career in politics, Radim? Because you answered that very tactfully.
That's good.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what else do we want to ask about?
Well, I think if we
Decoction.
come back to the malt choices specifically, there's talking about the kind of homebrew geekery and all the different opinions that you see online, decoction mashing is definitely one of those where you get like a lot of people going, "Oh yeah, decoction mashing is a waste of time. It doesn't do anything." Blah 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 blah. We had a little bit of a chat about this kind of prior to the podcast, based on some of the information that's in like the Golden Rules document and what we've seen with the videos that you did with the malt miller and everything else previously, and the talks at BrewCon, because I was at that as well when you did that before. But it occurred to us that perhaps people aren't getting good results with decoction mashing because they're not using suitable malts, and that seems to be kind of confirmed by what you're saying in the booklet. So what is it about what makes a good malt for decoction? And I think in the PDF it talks about the Coldback index and things like that. So could you
Coldback index,
dig into that a little bit more for us?
Yeah, so pretty much like your selection of barley, the base malt. Like if you're just using simple pale malt and you're not adding any other grains into it, so you want to look at the level of modification, which basically describes how long the barley was steeped for, and also how long was steeped for, and the modification of the inside of barley, the protein saccharic metrics, like how well it was developed. Yeah, so usually those malts would be casted steeped for quite short a time, because you want to have that quite complex matrix of proteins and saccharides. So Coldback's index actually just describes that. So the Coldback index for less than 38 or 37, it's sort of under-modified. 38 to 42 is modified, and 38, 42, and 42 over is well modified. Yeah, so if you're doing something like infusion mash, you want your malt to be modified or well modified. So the access of it basically describes like how well the enzymes could access those starches and break them down into sugars. So that's pretty much in a nutshell explained. So if you're going for decoction, you want your malt to be a little bit harder in that sort of like a composition of those starches. So it will be like really big chains. And what actually the decoction does is, as you boil the portion, it bursts and let those amylases to access the ends, or the what's it called, the branches, to actually like break it down into sugars. Yeah. So really, like if you would do a decoction with well modified malt, you would end up with quite thin beer with lower finishing gravity, because you basically like expose all these ends of saccharides.
So malt?
So you're just getting shorter and shorter chain.
Shorter and shorter. And then you end up with really like thin beer. That happened to us when we brewed in Tonbridge. Well, that's story for another day. But so it's basically just to consider these facts. And if you go for something like a Bohemian 4 malt from Environment, just always like malt miller is great in this, because you can access the spec sheet for your malt.
That's what you would recommend, because that's what I was going to ask, is what malt is actually available for us, because is the other one the crisp Hana malt? Is that
so Hana, it's I was looking at the Coldback index, and it's quite high at Coldback index. So Hana is actually a region in Moravia. It's one of the regions in Czech Republic. So Hana, that's the same sort of a grain. But it's well modified. It's well modified. Have a look, because it varies year on year, and also like what the masters intend to do with that. If it's a malt destined for UK, probably going to be much more modified. Or if it's actually malted in Germany when they do step meshes, so Environment for me is the choice for this.
So, that's what a lot of us have been using Environment, haven't we? Bohemian Pils. Low malted. Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
So the base malt in that you use for Budvar, is that, I presume obviously that's a local Czech.
We're only using local producers for hops and barley. So it comes from Hana.
Okay.
It's actually Hana. Also, not to mention
the variety would probably be closest to the crisp Hannah, but it's not necessarily modified to the same
Yeah,
level.
it's,
So
it's the
Yeah,
modification
malted.
level.
right.
And also, the Bohemian Pilsner Full Malt from Weirman actually comes from the same maltsters that we use in Czech Republic.
Okay, right.
So we just having slightly
Interesting.
different spec for modification
Mhm.
because obviously big maltsters will do it more closer to like single decoction or step mash. Whether we really our spec is basically for
So
double decoction.
Bohemian floor malt is pretty much as good as we're going to get for a direct equivalent
Yeah.
Exactly.
to what
That's
Budvar are
yeah.
using. Yeah,
That's what I've
okay.
been using at home, and it's got a great results.
Yeah, well,
Just
we all
the-
love
the
it
most-
anyway.
the
back-
most expensive base malt out there.
yeah, but it's amazing.
well,
Yeah, like
Unfortunately.
remortgage the house each time I want a sack of it.
Was it 60 quid or something? 50, 60 pounds?
I think at one point it got up to like
80.
70 odd.
Yeah,
It was
Yeah.
crazy at one point, yeah.
It was mental.
But,
But,
you know, try test it against other molds. Like try the Chris Hannah versus Bayerman and see the results. Taste it. It's again. I'm going to repeat this like hundreds of times.
It's so funny, but it's interesting to hear that actually, if you decoct a well modified malt, then you're going to end up with a really thin beer because it's going to break down those long chain sugars, and you do need to use an under modified malt basically if you want to do decoction. That's a takeaway.
yeah.
Definitely.
Well, I think the Malt Miller guys at one of the BrewCon events did bring 2 different versions of the Budvar
Hannah.
recipe with 2 different malts, and they were drastically different. Probably
If I
because of
remember
that.
correctly, it was the approaches. It was infusion versus decoction. It wasn't the difference in malt. If I remember
okay.
correctly.
Yeah, okay. I may have got that wrong, but anyway.
There you
Well,
go.
you know, maybe it's your next project.
Yeah.
Could be, yeah.
Next video track.
That's a long-term project. I
Yeah,
think,
yeah, I think so. We've got loads of other ones to get through first.
yeah,
Yeah,
go
on,
on,
Aaron.
Tricky.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so again, for home brewers who want to maybe dodge the decoction method, yeah, where can they go? That's going to maybe recreate that flavor without having to go through that process. So melanoidin malts and things like that. Are they viable options?
Yeah, there's again, Weirman has a Bohemian. That's quite closer. I think every percent of the grain bill will take down 1 EBC or something like that. Yeah, that's quite good. Melanoidin malts. Yeah, just play with the composition of a grain bill and see where it gets you. You know,
Yep.
Melanoidin malts are quite great, but again, like I would be just slightly scared there about the oxidation part in fermentation, not in production. So that would be something to focus on. It's basically just using like caramel malts, caramel versus crystal malts, that sort of thing. So I would be a little bit worried about how long it's actually going to last in the keg. But beer is best drank fresh, so go and have a go at it. So definitely melanoidin malts, Bohemian, like all these kind of malts added in. Just play with the composition, play with the flavor. See what you like there. Taste the grain. I'm always amazed like how many people never taste their actual grains when they buy them. It's to take a couple of grains, just fucking crush in your mouth and see how it tastes like. Play with that and do the composition. So
yep.
Yeah, it's I'm not saying like decoction is the only way. You can do infusion, you can do step mashing, whatever floats your boat. But again, like that's the difference with Czech lager. Like you want to have a lager or you want to have a Czech lager, and it's all in the details. Sometimes it takes you from good to great. So yeah, Stifo says touch of Munich. I couldn't read the rest. Some 100 something. Yeah.
That was
Whichever.
it. Just a touch of Munich, just regular Munich. One.
Yeah,
I
one.
think he was suggesting.
Yeah, for me the Munich can be quite biscuity. I don't enjoy the biscuity flavors. But it's what you like and what you like to drink. So taste again.
Yeah, I've very often used a very small percentage of melanoidin malt in certain lagers to a good outcome. That's been successful. It's only ever been like 1-2% at the most,
Right.
but it just adds just another almost hard to perceive layer of
Yeah.
complexity.
In general, like I've tried Melanoidin malts. The only thing there is like you cannot replicate the decoction flavor by changing the grain bill. Yeah, so it's that really like specific breadiness on your palate that literally like grabs into your tongue and like stays there
Yeah.
like for much longer. So yeah, well,
So back to the question on something I read in the Golden Rules document. So for anyone that hasn't caught that in the conversation so far, Budvar produced and published a document called Golden Rules, which covers a lot of very in-depth detail for really more for home brewers, right? But there was a section about reverse decoction.
Yep.
Can you talk to us about how that works?
So reverse decoction, like actually like name that came up from our partnership brewing. So partnership brewing is the way that we do beers with other breweries in their breweries, and the reverse decoction is basically expression of mashing into kettle and pump it back into mash tun. So what you do with decoction is that you mash it into your mash tun and then calculate the amount of decoction that you need to boil. In the breweries that actually don't have the means of steam to heat up the decoction, so you would mash it into a kettle, leave the decoction in the kettle, and send the rest into your mash conversion vessel or a mash tun. So then do you boil it and send it over that.
Yeah.
So that's more like it's more for like a professional brewers, because in a home brewing environment usually you're mashing and then having that separated vessel to it's much easier. Yeah, it's much easier to do it on a homebrew scale. But for brewers, like what happened to us in Turnbridge, similar thing. We did that, and then we find out that the temperature probe was too high, so we couldn't monitor the temperature of the decoction.
Yes.
So it's like, just looking at it, does it boil? Yeah, it boils. Great, send it back. There are so many things, like even for us, like doing this project is absolutely wonderful that you go somewhere and then getting comfortable with uncomfortable and getting our brewers into a situation and be like, oh, what is this? It's like like using some things like hand props. Yeah, literally having a like long hand prop, be like, can someone monitor the temperature and not getting burnt?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the reverse decoction method.
Okay, that's cool. Nice. So I think we've come to the point where I'm probably been most excited is to crack the dark lager. So big thanks to Radim for sending us this lovely Budvar merch. We're all rocking today, as well as some beers. So really appreciate that. Thank you. But yeah, we want to crack into the dark lager. Whilst we're doing that, Radim, maybe you could just tell us a little bit about the dark lager. Is it been around for a long time?
Actually, it's so misunderstood beer.
What?
And I it's like especially UK, like you get a long tradition of stouts and porters, and then you see dark beer and be like, is it gonna be heavy? Something's gonna be different with that. It's gonna be, I don't know, when people see dark beer in the UK, it's probably Guinness, right? And it's like heavy, creamy, and stuff like that. And then they taste it and be like, oh, this is brilliant. It's drinkable. It's lighter. Yeah. So dark lager follows the same schedule as we talk about the decoction, the composition for different malts using Pilsner, Munich, some crystal, and dark malts. I think it's a dark one, not roasted dark one. And so this has been around since 2004. And when you look at a label, you see those two fingerprints.
Yep.
So so that's one of which is our current brewmaster, who at 2004 was the head of the brew house. And the second one is Aleš Dvořák, who's now he's our flying brewer. So he does the domestic collaborations with the local craft breweries. But back in the day, he was working under Adam in the brew house. And 2004, the brewmaster was called Josef Tolar. And Josef Tolar was very strict in the way of brewing lager. and they asked him if they can brew dark lager, and he said, "No, we don't do any of this dark BS here." And so basically, what they did, they bought their own money bags of dark malts and literally hijacked the brew house, one of the batches, and threw it in there. And they didn't tell anyone. Send it over into primary fermentation, into lagering tank, and they gave it to like everyone in the brewery to taste it. And the brewmaster went ballistic. But because the people of brewery liked it, they literally came to him and started tapping on his back and saying, "Josef, you did a great job. You did a great job." So he couldn't get angry with them. So the entire thought of the dark lager was actually paid a tribute to the pre-steam revolution lagers before you had things like indirect kilning. When the lagers were darker. And back in the day, smokier and acidic, probably. So it's basically just a basic tribute. And for me, it's absolutely fantastic beer. Slightly misunderstood, but in general, like you get a beautiful notes of coffee, chocolate, the fakes that I've mentioned. Yeah, it's wonderful beer. Also super drinkable. You can have more pints of it. Yeah, and one thing that actually stands out compared to other Czech lagers, it's high attenuated. It's a 80% attenuation. So it doesn't have the cloyiness that sometimes dark lagers tend to have. And sorry, I just got a little bit emotional here.
Can I just say, I've just had to have a moment. I'm not feeling grand, but in a strange turn of events, somebody said that Budvar is better than Brewdog.
Funny that.
Another shocker. Water is wet. Yes. There's a bit of a difference in brewing history there, Mark. That's all I'm gonna say. I love this beer, by the way. I happen to have 15 of these beers because I bought a shitload as well.
Because there was loads of them in the supermarket at one point, wasn't there?
And there was a shed load. They were in Lidl. They were all over the place. Still got them in Waitrose, and they had them in Tesco's for a while.
I was hoping it was going to be a regular in Lidl, but
I'll tell you one little teaser to get you come to a brewery. Yeah, so this one's lager 60 days, and quite sadly, it's quite like the lagering. So the whole lagering thing was like back in the day to actually get rid of some of those like roasted flavors when the malts were directly kiln. And so we retained this sort of like a longer maturation time. Well, if I go down to cellars, that's 35 to 40 days. It's like drinking a cold cocoa. It's really like absolutely banging.
So out of pure curiosity, when we come over to the Czech Republic, can we make sure you're there and actually get the full tour?
Absolutely.
Including those doors that say no entry.
Yeah, I have access pretty much everywhere in the brewery, so
yeah. Right, boys, forget Germany. We're going to Czech Republic.
It's on.
Yeah, please do. I'm in the Czech Republic quite frequently, so if you give me a shout at least like a month in advance, can sort it out.
This works for me, man.
What a legend!
This is absolutely stunning. I'm getting
I love this beer.
Tiny. I'm getting small notes of like stone fruit. I'm getting lots of like coffee. I'm getting there's also a really weird, and I don't want to say it. Let me near the axe. Which axe?
You're gonna say
I think we need some context on that one.
I think when we go, we need to take Stiffo and Rob with us and Reiki.
You say marzipan?
Yeah, like just this vaguest hint of almonds.
Really? That's usually that's not a good thing.
No, I've got fucked up taste buds. Okay.
Is it because you're getting reminded? Is it because of this beers remind you of other beers that you've had that with?
I get so much stone fruit off this.
It's also like it could be the dark malts, because like on the nose, like the dark malts sometimes can be perceived as almonds, but
I'm not getting. It's it's that the roasted barley type thing that I'm getting.
Mm-hmm.
Loads of that sort of
raisiny kind of that kind of thing.
Well fired malt.
Mm.
Isn't it? It's that sort of roasted.
It's around it. It's around it. Like
it's just it's got that dark malt character, but just super smooth, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's
it's so it's like this is drinkable sort of.
and what you were saying about all the malts going in straight from the beginning as well, like, you know, a lot of people would swear blind that you would have to be like mash capping with this or putting them in like steeped malts or, you know, whatever, but clearly not necessary for this. Doesn't have any of that kind of like harsh, you know, dark malt character that you might expect if that was the case. So
for me also, I like the level of chocolateness. Yeah, it's you don't get dark chocolate, you get more like a milk chocolate almost.
Yeah.
So it's very very prominent flavor of that, like, you know, 60% cocoa chocolate sort of thing, not that like really 70-80% cocoa chocolate thing.
Yeah.
It's interesting, the aroma on the beer.
Yeah.
Doesn't give a huge dark beer. There's not a huge dark beer aroma on the beer. It's quintessentially lager because there's that lager aroma. But it's hard to tell that it's a dark beer from the nose.
Is it sass that's in this?
Yeah, it's sass in all our beers. Yeah, the dark malts can hide lots of the notes from the fermentation and from the hops.
I had this at London Craft Beer Festival last summer, and it was just so good. I think it may have been the first time I'd tried it as well.
Radim was probably serving you that beer, wasn't he?
Yeah,
I think he probably was.
Radim.
Yeah, in your leather apron. What do you have to do to get one of those leather aprons out of interest?
Well, you need to become an ambassador, and you need to get extensive training led by me. The brewery.
All right, sign me up.
And then you need to pass the final test by our brewmaster. So yeah, there's quite an ethos behind that.
So it's not like you can just buy one.
You can't just buy a liquor tap and then just.
Well, no.
No.
Yeah.
Sorry to inform you. No.
Yeah, it's a great thing. Like for anyone who listens to the podcast, yeah, if you see a guy in a leather apron, like, you've got a guarantee that the beer will be absolutely spot on. Anything that comes from, you know, the care about the beer, about the lines, beer lines, the taps, the glass, and everything. So if you ever see one of our brand ambassadors in the UK or in another country, just go in and just like drink it by hectoliters, not liters, hectoliters.
Yeah. You might not look yourself in the morning, but yeah,
you don't need to
drink
leave
some of that beer. A question for you, Radim. What is, out of all of the beers that Budvar produce, what is your favourite beer?
It's like asking, like, what's your favorite child?
Yeah. Yeah. Correct.
No, I'd say, you know, I describe this like with everything. Like, I like lots of whiskey, I like lots of beer, and it's just like music. You know, you don't listen to same music every day, and it really depends on the time of the day, your company, who you're sharing the beer with, you know, how you feel the day. You know, for me, the dark one, that's, you know, sort of like a autumn vibes to it, but it's as well refreshing in summer, surprisingly.
Yeah.
You know, our original is more like a Sunday barbecue beer. You know, when you're with your family, you want some, you know, easygoing beer to have with your meal. If I had to choose like one beer, that is the one that we actually taste in the cellars, the fresh hop Imperial Lager. That's, you know, that's, again, it's a treat. It's just like, because you don't drink it as often, you stay there and you just enjoy that. And also, like, you know, for me, I might be overwhelmed because I drink Budvar, can I say, every day? Yeah, for me, original is the one is the beer that I grew on, like, my entire sort of like since 18, obviously. It's the beer that was always on the table, like whenever it was Sunday lunch or whenever, you know, I went out with someone. The dark lager, it's more sort of a niche, you know, if you want to really have some, you know, flavors, you know, late evening. For me, like, dark one is like finisher in the evening. So I could be drinking original all night, and then I would just want to have the 1-2 beers before I go home. It would be the dark. Yeah, This is like the hardest question. Hardest question.
It's
Yeah.
not difficult at all. It's whichever one you've got in your hand at the time.
Correct.
That's what it is.
What
And-
I'm taking away is, Chris, is you want to plant some saz in your back garden so that you can have some wet hop saz.
No, I just need to
September
nip to the Czech Republic and borrow the axe.
So I
Yeah.
actually planted 3 saz plants last year. So I'm in year 1 complete, and then so year 2, then year 3, hopefully year 4 will be when the good
Listen,
good harvest.
Give me posted and send me a sample. I'll tell you how it gets.
But
Yeah.
it'll taste nothing like actual saz because it's not
Yeah, it's-
grown where actual saz is.
Well, it's
Yeah.
grown in Scotland, isn't it? So
Yeah.
if it survives this winter, then it'll be that'll be an achievement.
Wow, man.
Just to tell you the story about the eggs that Stefan mentioned there. So we're using whole cones in Budvar, and it's basically we used to do our own malt back in the day, and now the malt of the floor, the malt room where
Oh, the axe.
You-
Yeah.
so it's basically like we having
the
now
hops.
we now use it as a storage, and those bales they having there we go. One of these bales is 150 kilos, and because it's compressed, that all the oils, and it's quite like really hard to separate it. So we need to use the axe to actually like pull it and then dose it into bags that are then taken up to brew floor and dosed into kettle. So yeah, that's and you cannot get there on a regular tour in there. So that's just special visitors.
That's why we need you, man. That's why we need you.
Get the axe.
It's the backstage pass.
That's the axe story.
territory. Yeah,
It's
It's all good, man.
Does special guests get a go with the
Makes
axe?
sense.
Yeah, just to take a picture with the axe. It's also like it's quite interesting thing like in the current days with all the health and safety that someone's still using an axe.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not unusual because it's the most appropriate tool for the job.
Oh yeah, it's also the most precious. It's like it's been there since I don't know. Probably the axe is older than me.
Yeah, Darwin will take care of the rest. The idiots won't be able to do it for very long.
It's-
You don't have to worry too much about that. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
How many times has the head been replaced, and how many times has the actual the handle been replaced?
Well, it's not like a chopping a wood, so you don't have to like swing it massively. So it's been that's what I'm saying. Like it must be older than me because it's there.
Have you guys seen that? Was it old? Was it Fools and Horses? What is it?
I don't think Radim's watched Only Fools
With
and
the broom?
Horses, I'll be honest.
I'm just thinking it's like
Trigger's
the
broom.
Trigger's broom, and the head's been replaced like 10, 12 times or something like that, and the handle's been replaced as well. And it's like it's the same broom.
Yeah, okay. That's I think that's a step too far for old Radim. I'm not sure he's up on 1980s English TV that much.
I
No,
have absolutely no clue what you're talking about.
Yeah,
No.
yeah, it's worth watching on YouTube. This is a stunner. I'm really
It's
enjoying
really
this.
It's
It's-
delicious.
Basically, it's like a Schwarzbier, isn't it?
It's not.
It's close.
It's decocted. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, no, I find General Schwarzbier to be more on the like that, more drier, more
Yep.
sort of like a slightly less bodied and maybe more roasty.
Yep.
It's a decoction, get a couple of German Schwarzbiers and compare it side by side. Again, like this one will stand out thanks to the decoction. Yeah, not in a like if it's better or worse, but like on just that mouthfeel profile.
Yeah. I might actually do that. Actually. Cool.
Okay, I'm gonna
Yeah,
jump in here. Owen looks like he's battling a migraine, I'll be honest with you. Looks like
Just-
he's struggling.
Battling a reasonably severe hangover.
Oh, okay. Well, drink more then. Stop being a pansy.
Yeah, drink more. One thing we say in Czech Republic, what's the best cure for a hangover?
More beer.
Never get sober.
Look, yes, I agree. Don't ever get sober.
That's a good tactic.
It was a
Oh.
tactic employed by Father Ted's mate, wasn't it? Father Jack. He wasn't sober for about 30 years. Anyway,
Right.
hops. I want to talk about hops. Andy's already introduced the theory of hops. I want to know, and I'm going to be straight up, and I'm going to ask it out. Do you use any other hops than Saz?
Yes, we do.
Which
So,
other hops do you use?
Agnus.
Which one, sorry?
Agnus.
Agnes.
Yeah, Agnus.
I used to work with her.
Yeah, so it's a Czech variety. So
Okay.
we use Agnus, so that's now used in the 33. So in general, like the beer that's been released, I think 4 or 5 years ago.
Yep.
So we use the Agnus for bittering because it's got a quite high percentage of humulon, so the bitterness can be quite, not gonna say aggressive, but more prominent thanks to that. And so we use that one for as a bittering. So the beer that has 33 IBU with the Agnus hops as a bittering hops, it actually it's got that bigger bite of bitterness. We also tried the fresh Agnus, and it's still there. And there is the one we use only for the fresh. It's called the Most.
Oh,
Most.
strawberry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
I
most,
love that
Most,
hop.
yeah. So yeah,
Was it
Most
Tricky,
was.
Tricky did this, was it Tricky
Yeah.
did a hop tester with the Most, wasn't it?
Which
Yeah,
one?
that
No.
Yeah.
Most.
Yeah, Most, yeah.
Yeah.
Because
It
and
was
it's
straight
like
strawberry.
straight strawberry.
Well, I get to more of the tropical notes, or it's so basically the history of Most is basically it was developed by the Czech breeding company in Saz region and Charles Farham. So it's a
Right,
crossover between Saz and Jester.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Wow.
so most means bridge in Czech Republic. So it's sort of like a bridging those two, beer nations or hop breeding nations.
Yeah, because
So,
I think they tried to grow it in the UK and it was pretty rotten, and then they grew it in Czech Republic and it was what it is now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's amazing. If you're
Wow.
going to watch the Moldmore video that we're going to do, I'm actually using Moss there because, funny enough, it actually creates quite a nice texture of the beer. So if you're doing beers around it for 4%, it actually brings out the body in beer. For some reason, there's I don't know if it's the composition of polyphenols or something, but it's just it brings body in the beer, and it's amazing hops. I literally the recipe that I did, I put it in a keg just before I left a week ago, and I tasted it before I carbonated it in the keg, and I was like, "Fuck me, that's a great, that's a great hop flavor." So yeah,
I love Most.
yeah.
I
So
love it.
these are the 3 types of hops that we use in the brewery. Other than that, there's traditional brewery, we don't do this novelties hops or anything like that. The Most is the biggest novelty that we tried, but other than that, Saz is 99% of hops that we use in the brewery.
I can imagine. It's what could we sub in for Saz? I'll be honest. It's not like Saz is difficult to get a hold of, but let's say that all of a sudden there was a global pandemic and we have no more Saz.
Yeah, well then I would only substitute Saz with My Dignity.
Okay, that's a no then, right?
Could we use such an amazing hop? It's like
we could just use Mottwaker.
No,
Saz is quite interesting. So basically, Saz it's more like a category. Yeah. So in Czech Republic,
is it a Landrace hop?
It always gets grouped in with nobles, doesn't it? But it's not really.
Yeah, nobles. Yeah, but also
like the
Saz, you get a
nobles
different.
Yeah, you get a different. A Landrace, yeah.
What does it mean?
So Landrace means that it was an original that grew on the land, so it wasn't created by us as
like
such.
Crossbreed.
It was actually originated from its own breeding on the land.
Yeah, I would not be surprised. I think could be correct, but I will have to look it up. I don't want to BS you, but it's still classified as noble hops, so one of the 4 sort of original ones. But
because noble hop is actually just a marketing term that was dreamt up by the Germans, and actually the proper term to use is Landrace. There you
Yeah,
go.
you
I
know more
preferred
than I do
God
in
hop.
this field. But like with Saz, there's quite interesting fact there. So Saz in Czech, we call it Žatecký polraný červeňák. That's the official name of the hops. Yeah, and červeňák stands for red. So if you look at the Czech Saz, it actually has red leaves. Yeah, if you compare it to Saz that is grown in Germany, it has a green hops. So if you looking the picture that you put in there with an X, and you would look at the older bales that are behind, it has a original seal of Saaz City, because back in the day the German growers tried to sell a German Saaz as a Czech Saaz. So now everything that comes from the Saaz region needs to have a seal on that, and yeah, it's got a different properties like to compare to German Saaz.
Yeah,
It's quite
it will be. Yep. The soil makes such a massive difference for hops. It's unreal.
And the
and
climate,
also it's a slightly like different genome of the plant that is growing in Germany as well. So hence why the leaves are different, and yeah, the flavor, the shape of cone, and also like the
Right.
flavor and aromatic properties of it.
Turns out it's just UK Fuggles grown in Germany, and they call it Saz.
I think not.
Can't comment. I cannot comment on that.
Radim, we found out that you're familiar with the New Zealand hop Motueka. That's actually a Saz.
Saaz is a
Plant.
father, I think, right?
Yeah.
Saaz is the father, and Cascade is a something like that. Yeah, I'm really like this crossbreeding. It just gets too overwhelming, if I'm honest, and
I'm
just
not-
too busy to.
I'm not sure it was crossbred actually. I think they
think
literally
it's
just
just
took
Saz.
Saz and then they grew it in New Zealand, and
That's
that,
Motueka.
and it
You
tastes
know-
wildly different.
Like in the field of hops, like there's so much going on and so much developments going on. You know, I had a couple of lectures from the guys from Charles Farm. You know, I'm talking about like what the plans are, what's going on there, and you know how they done what they've done, and also it's years and years of like try and fail, you know, back and forth. It's
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy how long it takes for the hop to go
Yep.
from like the initial breeding to the trials to the sending it out to brewers to then actually getting released. Like even
Send it out to homebrewers.
the hops that you think are like brand new are probably 15 years old, like in terms of when
Yeah.
they first got
Yeah.
you know, created or whatever. So but yeah, it's interesting.
That's
Exciting.
another field of conversation, like going to this, what is crossbred with what, you know, how long did it take, and you know, like you go to US, you have a modified crops there now.
Yeah.
It's allowed, and you can basically like you can take the RNA and like change whatever the structure is there
was-
and play with
yeah.
that.
The yeast.
what
We were
I-
speaking to Lance, wasn't it? Amiga yeast, and Lance took us through all the kind of how they can just go in and change the code, and then it just unlocks different things that it can do, which is amazing. But it's totally banned, obviously, here in the US type thing. So
Yeah, like
Well, at least,
modification.
you know,
Gene
if it was a sheep with two hats, that's probably bad. When it comes to hops, again, you know, how far would you go to question that?
yeah,
I would always say, you know, learn how to brew with hops before you get into this, like, you know, using new varieties. It's quite
Yeah.
interesting how fast the industry is moving in terms of like, you know, what's the next hop? What's the next big hop that, you know, can you make something bigger and better than Citra? You know,
Yeah.
I call Citra the brewer's ketchup now. Like it's in everything.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
what's the next hop? Like the hype there is like massive, and the pressure on the growers is even bigger. Yeah, it's like you go. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say,
Yeah.
Citra. It's pretty much in every one of our brews now because we bought 5 kilos of it. So
I can't stand that hop. Yeah, in any beer that I taste Citra, and the reason for that
done
is
with
that
it, Chris.
once
Just-
I love you, Radim. I love you, man. Citra is such an overrated hop.
Oh, whatever, Chris. You
It's
drink
not,
Citra
yeah.
beers all the time and rave about them
I
on this
know.
pod. So just like
Show me where they are. Show me where
Okay.
they are.
Suds. by Bullhouse, raved about it. Loads of Citra in it. Literally, he's off.
Oh,
Bye.
Eat your
Honestly,
hat, sir. Eat your hat.
once I
To be
bought,
fair, this one's got Citra, Galaxy, and Hallertau Blanc in it as well.
Oh,
Uh, Absolute banger.
I'm going with
I
a
don't know.
controversial. Like I find Citra as the brewer's ketchup. If you don't know what to put in there to complement other hops, just put Citra in. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good base hop.
It's a great hop. I just only dislike it. It's my subjective feeling, because once I bought a fermenter from a guy and he was working for a bigger brewery and he gave me 2 kilos of Citra, and I used that hop in every beer I had. And for a home brewer like who brews 20 liters at a time, 2
Yeah.
kilos, it's a lot. It's a lot. And I put in everything. I was doing even imperial stouts with coconut. I put Citra in there. I was like, yeah. Ever since, cannot stand it.
You went off
Wow.
it after that.
I
No
think
wonder
there's-
you went
yeah.
off it. Yeah.
Overexposure is definitely a thing for any hop,
Definitely
isn't
a
it?
thing.
Like, you know.
So listen, guys. Let's talk about yeast
Yes.
for a minute.
My personal
The final
favourite.
frontier.
The final frontier before we get
Because we
to
make the wort and yeast make
hugs
the
and
beer.
kisses at the end. So Budvar have a house yeast.
Which makes Sevilla.
Is that used in all the beers? Is that just
All the beers.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So
It's-
you don't
it's
ever use anything
The end.
else.
Yeah, so basically we having our in-house yeast strain. That's the one that we've been having since beginning. Originally, this yeast strain actually came from Pilsen, but throughout the years, and it mutated slightly, and it's got a slightly different parameters, but it's a beast. It's a beast. It can work hard, and yeah, it just works. It just works and gives that mouthfeel. It's that slightly. I wouldn't use the ester, but that's something like Budvar yeast strain tastes different for us. And when we brewed with we basically every other partnership brewing that we've done last year, like in Thornbridge, yeah, they used our yeast strain, and we came in and tasted it. It's like, fuck, it's got a good Budvar character. Yeah, and that's the yeast. Yeah, it's a beast as well. Like it can be like, you can treat it like your neglected child.
No way.
So you can hate it and it'll still make good beer.
Yeah, well, you still need to take care of it, but yeah, it's a great yeast variety. But you need to do the conditions for it.
Yeah, I've got to admit, I am really still enjoying this beer, and if this is made with that yeast, then for God's sake, keep doing it. One quick question about the yeast, though: do you have it, for want of a better term, do you have it frozen, and then you take a single strain and you work it through, or do you just literally drop the slurry and dump it on some wort?
So we got a full propagation station. It's available for anyone. Like there's local breweries that come in and take it from there. In any fermentation, you end up with like 3 times more of the yeast. So then you watch the vitality, the viability, you watch the fermentation curve. If it performs well, you send it back to propagation station to make more, and then eventually dump it. But it's an ongoing process. Like if you come to the brewery, I'll show you the
That's
propagation
single
station.
strain.
It's tanks. Like it's a big tanks of like literally just stir yeast and a little bit of work,
So-
and you're just going.
So basically, what you're saying is you don't let it. It's not modifying it itself anymore. Basically, you've took that strain now, that what you had, that's been banked, and now you propagate from that strain. Basically,
Yeah, it's
That was what I asked. Yeah,
that's the question. Yeah,
it's ongoing propagation, but obviously we have it saved in a bank in a liquid nitrogen. So, and many of the laboratories around the world have it now as well. Like Wild Labs using our, that's the one that we actually use when we brew with Umbridge. So can put my hand in a fire and swear on it.
yeah.
It's a yeast strain, and yeah, I bought a couple of bags of that Wild Labs yeast strain and brought it back to our lab to get it tested as well. So
okay,
confirm that's ours. So
right.
yeah,
Next
but we don't
question.
freeze. Oh, sorry.
Next question. I'm going to let you talk because yeast is one of my favorite subjects in the whole brewing world.
Yeah.
I love me some yeast. I also love the fact that it's uber geeky. So when I was in, or if I was to go to, I can't remember which yeast manufacturer it is. Is it Y Yeast who do the? I can't pronounce it. Budweiser?
No, it's
No,
just
White Labs.
White
Is it
Labs.
White Labs?
Say 802, isn't it?
802, yeah.
WLPO2. Yeah.
Yeah. How close is that to what you use?
That's what he was just saying. He says he took it back, and then it was like, yeah, it was the same.
My brain was doing other things. Sorry.
Yeah.
And the way we also tested it was that actually the guys in Thornbridge, when we brew with them, we didn't want to send the yeast from the brewery over because it's it's a long journey for yeast. So they actually bought the White Labs packets, those whatever 11, 20 grams packs they are, and they propagated that from those homebrewing packs. So
Nice.
Okay, all right.
way
So
to
it's
do it.
definitely legit then.
Well, that's what you want, isn't it? You want something that is legit. If you're going to try and
so,
we're never going to recreate what you do, but if we could at least pay homage to it, that is.
It's brilliant because when we came to taste the pilot batch in Thornbridge, the first thing I went there with brewers, and the first thing is like we look at each other and it was literally like it's got that Budvar flavor in it. So
nice.
Yeah, try and test it like commercially. So
are there any specific sort of peculiarities about the yeast in terms of how to treat it to make it do its thing the best? Like what's
honestly
temperature
like
range and everything, or is it just
the temperature range, the way we do it, we pitch it at 7 degrees and let it raise to 10 degrees, never more than 10 degrees.
Okay.
In homebrewing conditions, always do yeast starter. I always do yeast starters, even for ales, but specifically for lager yeast strains, I always do starters, even if it's a dry yeast. Like if you use the W3470, I always do. Yeah, it always performs better when it's already in the job.
Yeah.
Just make a starter. Make sure you get enough nutrients for it as well. So hence why I mentioned the zinc, and keep the temperature. Like
you've got to find out which zinc salt kit is, and you've got to send that to me, man.
I will. I'll ask Greg from Worcester.
It might be in our video. Check it out.
Maybe.
It probably is in there somewhere.
Yeah. We interviewed. It was a Zina chef. What's it?
Jamil.
Jamil. Yeah, and he was the one that came out with it all. We were like, what? But yeah, he was talking about the delicious.
Like in general, like there's a lot of zinc in the barley, but unfortunately, it doesn't get through the sparging process. So if you substitute it in the wort prior to pitching, is always a great idea. Like even back before, I was always using yeast nutrients, but it's mostly like the yeast nutrients. We've got different varieties. Many times you get something for winemakers and stuff like that, and you never know what is really inside. But the zinc is the one that the yeast needs to build up. I think it's the cell walls.
It's included within the cell wall propagation. I did biochemistry, toxicology, and studied mycology at university. So, yeah.
So I wasn't wrong. That's great.
No, you were right. I don't think it's really that required for home brewers. I'll be honest with you. It's not massive for us. In fact, I spoke to somebody who said it wasn't. But so my next question for substitutes, everybody could just use Voss, right?
No.
Voss is a good substitute.
No,
I just did a dramatic pause there.
Yeah, so Radim, where do you stand on quake fermented lagers?
I don't even stand when you said that. Yeah. Actually, I'm glad I'm sitting. I know, like the Lutra,
yeah.
Quake. I've tried some lagers with that. Again, I get this philosophically. Yeah. What a lager means.
Yeah.
It means it's stored in a cold temperature. That's all it means.
No. Lager means patience.
No.
Lager means stored.
No, it means.
No, you're talking about the literal words definition.
Yeah, exactly what I'm saying.
But the thing was, it was fermented at those stored temperatures, And the reason
Don't give me
those yeasts survived was because they could ferment at colder temperatures, right? So it's
Yeah,
fermented
I was
at a
talking about
colder
ethos.
temperature.
I was talking about ethos. Yeah, for me,
Yeah.
lager, like the synonym for lager is patience. You know, it's
Yeah,
if you don't have a time to ferment it at that low temperature for that 10 to 12 days, you don't have a time to lager. Yeah, use Quake. Great. You know, whatever flows your boat. Again, taste. Yeah, if you like it, you prefer it, go with it. Yeah,
I've got it
it's-
from the man himself. I can use Voss to make lagers. Sorted. Nobody can argue with me from now on.
no.
Yeah, I'm just the only worry I have about Quake is the esters. You know, even like was at 20 degrees, it's like was is still doing that lots of was it
Orange.
orange,
Yeah.
yeah.
I was joking about Voss, but there are certain ones like Uber. There's Lutra. I can't remember what the other one is. It begins with an S, and they're all pretty clean. You ferment them down at 20, they're still pretty clean.
Yeah. Let's say like the 3470, you can still ferment up to 18 degrees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would it still be lager? Would it still like there's a brewery in Prague? They ferment at I think 15 or 16 degrees. Their lagers. Yeah, but are they great? Yeah, they are great when you taste things straight in the brewery. They don't do any packaged. Yeah, they
Yeah.
whatever they brew, they dispense it on site. Yeah, they are, and the ethos of the brewer is that he likes that Worte character. So they even lager like 3 weeks or something like that. Very short lagering time, but that's what the brewer intended. Yeah, I always go with it like what the brewer intended for you to drink. Yeah, not the generalization of lager should taste like this. Yeah, if you like that, flows your boat, use that. Can it still be called lager? Well, we would use lager yeast, right? So Saccharomyces pastorian is. So is it a genom? Is it not?
Radim, just tell him it's not.
Debate. So,
Well, can I swear
like-
now?
You
Yeah,
can
yeah.
swear as much as you want.
No,
Tell him to
it's an
fuck
absolute.
off.
It's an absolute shite to use it for lagers.
All I come
Preach.
back to is all I come back to is this.
It's like kissing your sister.
Oh, fuck off, Andy. You've clearly not met my sister. I'll
That's
send you a
okay,
picture
mate.
of my sister, Andy. You'll rethink that one.
Could you rather send a tasters of the beer made with kvass rather than picture of your sister? I try to
No,
respect. your
I
sister.
would do, but that first beer that I had tonight was fermented with Voss. So, the main thing for me, what it comes down to for me, is exactly what you've just said. It's time. If I want to turn a beer around really fast, I will use Voss, or I will use Lutra, or I will use, Uber or whatever. But if I have the time, I'll use Global, or I'll use 3470 and ferment it at 10. I'll use a proper lager yeast, a Pastoriana strain, and I'll ferment it slow and low. It's like cooking.
Yeah,
Beef
I'll come
tastes
back at
better
you.
slow and low.
I'll come back at you with this. If you don't have time to make lager, just keep doing ales.
Oh, I mean,
No,
that's
that's
hard
not
because
good.
I love a lager. I love a lager, man.
Yeah.
I would love to try it, honestly. I would love to try it.
He's
Like,
already
I-
just brewing ales.
Right.
Yeah.
I've got
That's all he does.
Tricky. That one's for
Wow.
you. I'll happily package up some beers and send them over to you, man. That's not an issue.
Please do. Yeah, I would love to try it. Like I know I've tried when I lived in London. I was doing home brewing workshops for London Beer
He's
Lab.
quit. He's rage quit.
Wow.
Tricky's
Good
rage
one.
quit.
and I tried it. Lutra. Who makes it? Lutra. Which lab?
It's Omega, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Omega. And and I was using for Japanese rice lager. Yeah, it was all right. It was all right, but again, like you do want to get it's people don't realize that yeast actually gives specific flavor attributes to beer.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
they do.
and the longer you can keep the fermentation for, like the more complex flavors you can create.
Yeah.
And if you knock off fermentation within 2 days, if so, then you're missing on the complexity of the flavor derived by yeast.
I will agree with you totally. And one thing that I will say is, I love winding
Like that.
Tricky up. I
we
love
love winding you
winding
up.
Tricky up because it's hilarious.
No,
I
we're
thought
winding
you were
you
the
up,
one getting
Chris.
winded
I
up,
know,
Chris.
that's it.
Mr.
I don't
Pseudo
get wound
brewer.
up about it. I don't get. How can I be a pseudo brewer? I'm still brewing, you.
Oh no, sorry, you're a
dipshit.
sister kisser now.
Oh, fucking hellfire.
Ooh.
Right.
That
You
hurts.
boys
that
are going to
hurts.
find it real difficult pretty soon. It's all down to time for me. If you've finally got the time to do it one. No, Brett, let's not talk about Nova Lager because I don't fucking like that yeast at all. You can keep that shit to yourself.
I actually brewed that, by the way,
Yeah.
and it was different, totally different. I did every year. I'm doing a project for Christmas. I'm coming back to Czech Republic, and I do cheese and beer tasting. And every year I come up with different concepts of beers. And last Christmas or the 2023 project was creating lagers, and I didn't have time. And I got a couple of packets from the guys from Melanoidin to try it. It was interesting. Like flavor wise, you didn't get much of the yeast flavor in there, but you can knock off the lager within 4 or 5 days, something like that. It can take the high temperatures, but
So can
but
Voss.
again, like 3470 at 15-16 degrees, like it's got the same.
Yeah,
Same time,
that was
just-
my
just really-
thoughts on it. I didn't really see
Oh,
what
just
it
checking
did
it
that
out.
was different.
Yeah. And then
yeah,
it just
the
what's
Weinstein
the thing
yeast
with Nova
anyway.
Lager? It stops the what's it called, Valine for the VDK diacetyl. Yeah, but it still was sulfur for me. And I know, like, even like if you do 3470 and you do the diacetyl the rest at the end, it's got the same amount of sulfurs, but and then you knock out the diacetyl in the diacetyl the rest. So whatever flows your boat, try it, experiment. Like, listen, every time I hear like some of these
taste.
Some of these like concepts and opinions, like I go home and I brew that thing, and I try it myself. So
That's cool.
it's a nice thing that it's also,
Yeah, it's a
let's
home
be
brew. You
honest,
can do anything.
but also, like, what's the time now? 10 o'clock for you guys.
Yeah.
If I'm honest, it's all about business at the end of the day, and these companies are based on making money, so they need to bring some novelty for you to be like, oh, you can have a turnaround on lager in 3 weeks, just like ale.
Yeah.
Is it a great lager? Is it not a great lager? What's the sort of a purpose behind that? So, go and try and taste.
So true.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to.
Because that's when yeast strains get chopped. It's because they're
Because-
not selling.
Because at the end of the day, like, we have this conversation at the university all the time. So it's like there is a research, and the question always is who sponsored the research.
Yes, I look at that all the time.
Yeah?
Who sponsored the research?
Yeah.
That is honestly one of the most important things. And if I could give everybody who's listening right now one piece of advice, it would be before you believe anything, look who paid for that research to be done.
Yeah.
That's fine.
There are so many things that can be misunderstood or misrepresented in the research. Misinterpreted, that's the word. Thank you. Yeah, and it was so this specific product can reduce this amount of XYZ. Great, it does. But how about the other things that you didn't mention in the research?
That's what it comes down to. Who paid for the research, man? So, right. When do you plan on releasing a Meltzen?
Is a question on us? On me?
Yeah, question for you, man. When are you going to release a Meltzen?
Why would we do Meltzen?
Because it's an amazing beer style that needs more. It needs to be available to more people.
Yeah, well, what's historically Meltzen?
Yeah.
In a day when you brew throughout the year and everything. No, Meltzen is a beautiful style. I like to drink it. I like to brew it as well. In general, like for us, even like Czech style beers, we get an amber lager. We don't do it in Budvar, obviously, but in general, I'm not a massive fan of like amber lagers. But Meltzen is a beautiful style. Yeah,
It is.
and I agree.
It's
Like
stunning.
it should be more popularized in the world of beer. but sadly we not intending. And it's
Wrong
also
side
like
of the border, right?
yeah, wrong side of the border, correct. But also like like we are not a brewery that launches beer every month or year or anything like that. So for us now, it's more focusing on like brewing Czech style lager with other great breweries around the world, and helping
You don't need to
them.
in that, mate.
Yeah,
It's,
get more of that out into the.
That should be in every supermarket in the UK. It really should. That's a banger.
What works. Can you give me like 2 minutes? I just pop into the toilet quickly because I had like 5 beers already.
Yeah, I've been twice already.
Yeah.
Go
If you
for it,
ask
man.
me,
It's not an issue.
Yeah,
Just
if-
hit
if
the
you-
mute
if you-
button at the bottom of the screen.
Don't you worry. I'm actually planning. I'm even taking off this. It's been fast, but if you ask me what's the worst thing about beer, it's the toilet trips. I'm literally
Don't
like,
break the
if
seal
I-
too early, man.
Oh, listen, I have been drinking since 12, so
Yes, legend.
the seal have been broken. I'll be right back.
Seals destroyed.
No worries.
I think I'm the only one that hasn't gone to the
Yeah, I've
loo
definitely
so
been to the loo already.
I've been twice.
far.
Well, quite a lot of interesting takeaways so far.
Yeah, definitely.
Some interesting, almost myth busting type
Definitely.
things there.
There's a lot of information there that I think a lot of people are going to really enjoy. I was asleep for about 20 minutes round the middle. Did he say anything important?
I think you have to
so.
just rewatch it.
All right, I'll watch that again.
Yeah, lots of good
There
insight.
was, yeah, a lot of
I
good
mean, the
golden
whole
nuggets.
the Budvar pH not even bothering to adjust it thing is the
6, and
the
then because of
biggest-
decoction, it
the
lowers
biggest
it.
shocker for me was like, what?
Yeah,
That's like, okay, there's
because I thought it was lower mash temps would cause it would give it that sort of acidic sort of, because when you mash lower it releases, it can give you that sort of
Yeah.
what do they call it, lactic sort of thing from the actual malt, is it?
No, it's a phytase enzyme that if you
PHTAS.
PHY
PHYTAS.
Yeah, so phytase is an enzyme that, what's it called? It dissociates hydrogen from the malt. Easy, like I would have to look this up because it's a quite interesting process. But phytase is the one that lowers the pH. So that's why
it removes phosphate, which will lead to the production of phosphoric acid within the brewery.
it's great. Like I just can't explain it myself. That's it.
To be fair, mate, you and me make a brilliant podcast together. You talk, and I'll just give them all the science. No, it's quite an interesting. I'm looking at the structure of it, and it's fucking hell. That is really quite interesting.
But like one of the interesting things is that like the phytase actually works at the same temperature range as beta glucan amylase. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it will do.
Yeah. Whatever the enzyme is called, it's the same temperature and supposed to lower the pH. But when I was doing the paper for the brewery, actually there was no significant drop in pH. So that's one of those, like I don't want to call it misconception because I was only taking 6-7 samples for the paper, but there was when I put it on the graph, like there was no significant change in pH. So usually like German brewers would use acid malt in order to lower down the pH. It's quite interesting when you go to German breweries and they literally producing lactic acid bacteria in the malt in the brew house. they're having like a big cylindrical tanks where it actually just let its thing, and they just
It's interesting.
I'll tell you something. The tertiary folding of this enzyme is actually really quite interesting.
You lost me there, man. My background is biochemistry, so
yeah, you and me both. Don't worry.
Primary, secondary, and tertiary folding within the protein. It's all done based on the structure of it, and it folds in a certain way, creates an active site to allow catalysis of the product itself. And I'm just looking at the tertiary fold of it here, and it's really quite interesting.
I can see in your face you're having a hard one right now, mate.
Yeah, I'll take your word.
Not quite. I've had too many beers for that.
And on that note,
That's interesting. Sorry, I stepped away for a moment there.
We
That
were
was
just saying, well, when you went for a toilet break, Radim, that we'd loads of really interesting little nuggets of information there, and quite a few things that challenge some of the common, knowledge as well, which was really great. So yeah, and I think we're kind of pretty much at the end, right? Anyone got anything else they want to throw out there before we wrap it up?
No.
And I guess the last thing to ask is we normally have a little bit of a sort of after party thing where some of the listeners jump on the video chat. So if you want to
I'll stay. I'll still get a couple of
then you may recognize a few faces on there as well. So if you are happy to join us for that, that would be awesome. But otherwise, I'm going to say it this time. That's episode 87 in the bag. We're done on the Budvar pod. So Owen's not here to say goodbye, but yeah.
Thank you for
say
having
goodbye,
me, guys.
everyone. Thanks for coming on, Radim. That's been awesome.
Cheers.
that was brilliant. Thank you.
And there'll be a link in the chat for the Google Meet for the video chat afterwards, guys. So jump on there if you want to come and have a little couple more beers and maybe ask Radim some more questions. All right. Cheers, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, there he is.
All that talk of oh, he didn't leave.